The intention of justice is to see that the guilty people are proven guilty and that the innocent are freed. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are taking a look at this case from a psychological perspective. I've been trying to figure out what would have been Brian Higgins' motive for attacking John.
Based on his injuries, it looks to me like he got into a fight and fell backwards. He had bruises on his hands.
Colin Albert and Brian Albert were fighters. This is a part of their identity. She's peacocking with the fighting with Brian Albert. Well, she's doing kind of something similar. She's performing in front of him.
So she did not respond is a lie. She did respond, but there's no text message.
I don't know if she's doing it to get Brian's attention, only because the week earlier when they were finally together alone, there was no chemistry. She had no attraction.
Have not heard from you.
Phone works, and then an emoji with arrows going like both ways.
Thought you were all set with talking? No.
So she basically ignored you the entire evening.
That's not how I interpret it, no.
That's not how I interpreted it. So he uses I, he uses past tense, and interpreted it as active voice. We don't have any repeating words here. We have no sign of deception here. So that's not how I interpreted it. No. By my own rules, I have to label this as a truthful statement.
There's body language. There's ways to communicate to somebody without actually speaking.
Where you gather around your friends, you laugh extra loud so that they see you. And I get what you're saying. Is she doing that?
She's placing herself right in front of Brian Higgins.
After she left, the communication died down substantially, which makes sense because she was upset, which she would be upset if she threw herself at him and he rejected her. Women don't take that well, guys. So you're going to have conflict here between the two of them if he rejected her, which it appears he did.
There are girls that are so at a level that we want, not physically, but also mentally, that we will forego hooking up with. And sort of Brian was doing that here.
If you are drunk Brian Higgins, who is the problem?
So you were a cop here in Canada. What is the policies and procedures? Did they do a good job?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's what they didn't do is worse than what they did do. They have nefariously did what they did. Correct. They certainly couldn't have done it out of ignorance, because I worked with all those guys. I worked with Gallagher. I worked with Lang, Berkowitz, and Rafferty came in the job when I was a midnight supervisor. They came on new boots on the ground.
Spent projectiles with even look, they even have the serial numbers for the spent projectiles. Can you believe it? Butcher paper, original evidence bag, handcuffs, biohazard chain of custody paperwork, and plastic hospital tray. This is the way it's supposed to be done, and apparently they know how to do it.
The cops knew who lived in that house.
Oh, yeah.
They knew his affiliation with the Boston police. He used to come inside the station when I was on the desk as a desk sergeant, routinely go right upstairs, give me the wave. I was told, he's Brian Albert, comes to the front window, green light upstairs.
He's got the key.
He's got the free pass.
What's interesting is we're looking at one sentence only, so we're going deep into the forensic linguistics today.
Who could sleep after somebody just was discovered like that?
You used us. You know you did. I wish just never to cross paths with you again. I believe I was misled and taken advantage of.
The docuseries A Body in the Snow followed Karen Reed before, during, and after trial number 1.
Was Karen paid at all for her participation in this?
No, not at all. We didn't even buy them dinner. Feel kind of bad about that, but no.
Terry couldn't stand her lawyers, but in particular, David Yannetti.
Well?
She was 100% in the camp of Karen is guilty.
So,
And showing solidarity, you can see them there.
it's about getting justice for John O'Keefe. There clearly is an issue of integrity.
How dare they? Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
Welcome. Happy Monday, everybody. Martin Luther King Day. Welcome. Today, once again, we are doing another noon show with Loophole Lawyer, who is here to join me now. Where are you? Why aren't you here? I see you, but you're not here with me. I'm adding you. This exact same thing happened 2 days ago. For some reason, I couldn't bring you on. So wait, we're going to get there. See, there you are. Speak, say hello.
I'm here.
All right. So I'm going to switch this, so I go to group discussion and it just puts me on the screen, which doesn't make any sense. How are you?
I'm doing well. Is Martin Luther King Jr. Day bigger than Christmas Eve in the Benigno household?
Absolutely. Much bigger. Yes.
And I like
Huge
the black
event.
background in support of my 1/17th African blood in me.
Yes, me too. Me too. I think
Well,
it's
Italians
less
and
than that.
Italians and Africans are pretty much the same thing. We are the bottom of the ring of the white ladder, and we are very close to Africa. Most of our heritage comes from the African continent.
It's true. And my family's Sicilian, so we're even closer on the map. So there you go.
Mine too. So we're even the lower rung of the Italians. I didn't realize how much real Italians look down upon Sicilians.
I know. Italy was an interesting experience. I spent a lot of time in Italy, and it was fun, but it was a trip. It was like, oh my God, this is why. This is explained everything. It explained everything like that. It was like, oh, this is why.
Yeah, the yelling, the fighting. I'm not talking to you for 20 years, and then the reconciliation. Yeah, it's all there, right there. If you go to Sicily, you'll figure everything out.
It's true.
So you had mentioned that you had grown up in Massachusetts. I don't know anything about your background, so maybe you could just tell us like where you grew up and then how you somehow got here.
So I was born and raised in New Jersey. Parents divorced. Mom is from Western Massachusetts. So when they split, I was around 6th grade. Moved from New Jersey in suburban New Jersey, like 10 minutes from the Meadowlands, west, and then went to high school and middle school in Western Massachusetts. So the other side of the state from Boston, but certainly, yeah, Massachusetts is Massachusetts. It's not far from Canton. My sister and I were there a few times. It's about 15-minute ride from Canton, Massachusetts. So, and then I've lived a lot of places since then, but I've been in New York City for 20 plus 23 years or something like that.
Bragger. So it must have been very odd for you to become the new girl in middle school in a different state.
You have no idea.
I could imagine. Does any of that trauma have anything to do with the tattoos on your body? Or was that all your mom?
No, it was probably, absolutely. It was that, probably. If I'm really being honest, it probably was that because I moved from, I don't know if you know where Saddle River, New Jersey is, but it's a very different community and experience from rural Massachusetts. And it was traumatizing for sure, to say the least.
The reason I bring it up, Sam, is that watching your video last night, which was very great, has changed my mind on certain things, but it also exemplifies the importance of life experience when you're dealing with a legal case, especially at a trial. For example, if you're, let's say, a David, if you're a lessee and you're just always in that corporate bubble, it's sometimes hard to recognize the fact that a lot of the people around DLA Piper, where Leslie's from, grew up in maybe a higher end type place. They never been around the roughnecks that we grew up with. They never understood what a starter jacket meant. Whether if you wore a black starter jacket or a red starter jacket, you could get your ass kicked in a white suburban town for whatever reason. And I don't know why, because when we were growing up, there were quote unquote gangs. Somehow like 3 kids from the city came to our town and then recruited all the derelicts that had family issues, but they were white, and then all of a sudden they're wearing starter jackets. And when you reference that, it made me think about how important it is that we bring our previous experience to this case in particular.
Absolutely. And that's, I think, one of the things that attracted me to this case is the fact that, yeah, these people, the whole thing is just very familiar. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. And it doesn't limit the familiarity to just, let's say, middle class or upper class. It's everyone. Everyone is out there has sexted with a girl or guy, for example, or text that we'd be embarrassed about if they were in court. Now, it's easy to make fun of them, but if we're being honest, we all have something similar probably in our life. I heard sweet Miss Judy, you know her from the Law Tube world. She told me she was hooking up with a professor that was 10 years older than her.
Oh, boy.
She went across state lines, snuck into the building. Now, this is little Miss Judy. She's 4 foot nothing. I mean, she's less than 5 foot.
Yes.
100 pounds. She sneaks into the building because it's a dorm. It's not a dorm, but you know the buzzers where you hit all the buzzers and you could sneak
Someone
in.
lets you in.
She probably acted like she's a Chinese delivery person. I always make those jokes with her. And then she gets to the door, knocks on the door, and she hears the Asian professor, because she only dates Asian guys, and an Asian girl in there, and she's claiming she's never ate dumplings before, and that's a big thing in the Asian culture, eating.
Okay.
So the guy opens the door, and sure enough, there's her boyfriend with another girl in the apartment. Now, the interesting thing is, Miss Judy has not come clean as to what she did. She didn't do anything there. She got her stuff. I'm sure you've been in a similar situation where you catch up and left, but she has not revealed what she did. But she did extract revenge. She's very vengeful like that. So we haven't. And I asked her if the statute of limitations has run, because obviously the only thing that I'm aware of is murder. And from what I'm sure of, that the guy's still alive. But the point is, no matter who you are, where you are, jealousy is a real thing. And when you showed that video yesterday, it really hit me that I was looking at it like, oh, she met with Higgins and there was no chemistry. That was my opinion. I was strong on that. But then you brought up the point, well, they already met already. It's not as if like you're meeting someone for the first time and they don't look like their picture. So then that hit me. I'm like, all right, maybe Karen was really peacocking in front of Brian Higgins. And maybe Brian Higgins didn't feel ignored, because every single time they've been together, John's always been there. So there's always been a part where you have to fake it. And I know that situation too, where you completely ignore each other. Only on paper are you ignoring each other because the boyfriend's there.
Right there.
Right there. So she's done this before. He's done this before. They had to do this before because obviously it's an affair.
Yeah.
So then it leads us back to Karen Reed didn't disclose this to anybody in the first trial. There is no way David Yannetti is going to question Chris Albert and not reference the fact that you grabbed Higgins' arm 30 minutes before you sent him the text and just hours before he was found dead. This is so huge. Why was there not one question to Chris Albert about that? And then all of us are trying to push the Colin Albert and the Chris Albert and that Chris Albert somehow had something to do with this, and he didn't. But he was there. And it's a weird narrative when you go back and watch trial number 1, questioning everyone, and no one references the taunts by Brian Higgins that are caught on video. That's your biggest piece of evidence. And yes, when I heard you say, what is the most important text? And you said, John's dead. John died. No response. We got it. We're there. I mean, we're there. It took all this and all this, but we're there.
Oh, yeah. No, that was it for me. I mean, that going way back, I was 100% sure Brian Higgins was involved. I mean, there was never a doubt in my mind about Brian Higgins' involvement because of that. I mean, he evidences such consciousness of guilt throughout his testimony. The entire thing, the crying about thinking about the video games with John's nephew. It's like, what is going on here other than I am responsible? I did this. It's my fault, right? And it's just steady throughout. But the non-response, here's a guy who sends the well text. All he wants is John O'Keefe out of the picture. He gets John O'Keefe out of the picture, not to be cold and callous, but, you know, he had an opportunity there. This is a woman he obviously had strong feelings for. No matter what he says, he obviously had strong feelings for her. The one consistent thing he does in every text interaction is tell her that. Over and over, he reiterates, I liked you from the jump. You know, I'm attracted to you. But he also makes it clear that he's not going to just jump her bones. Like he's clear on those two things. I think he didn't want to be used. I think his pride was in the way a little bit. Like he didn't want to be made a fool, and he wasn't sure if she was, using him to get back at John. And at one point, I don't think he's not even sure if it's John himself texting. There's a moment there where he's like, wait, is this John? Because she didn't remember the kiss, all these other things, because she was in a brownout. But I think in the end, yeah, I think that the fact that he didn't respond, it's like, you wanted this girl. She reaches out in a moment of just sadness and like deep vulnerability, and he says nothing.
Yeah, and you made me realize this because I was so strong on the fact that Higgy Bear was so naive to everything that was going on. There's no way that he would want to wait for their relationship to be over. And I 100% agree. He was in love with this girl. I've been there. I told you that, even if it's 9 days or 9 seconds. Because when you ask, when was Jump? Men fall in love with what we see. It doesn't matter. We see and we love. For girls, yeah, you can look at Tom Brady like my wife does and just start salivating. But I'm talking most girls don't fall in love with what they see. They fall in love with what they hear. And I use that cliche statement, but it is true on some level. That's why women are so much better at picking up on bullshit, because guys are always bullshitting you. Because like your dad taught you, we're trying to get in your pants for the most part. It's not about this. But I told you about the special relationships where in a guy's mind, a girl is more than that. It's huge to us. It hits us totally different. We're so insecure. We go from a total different mentality. Now, Emily would always bring up a good point. If that's the situation in your mind, then the girl's out of your league. Son of a bitch. Yeah, I don't know if did she text you anything about this? Because I put, and I don't know, in my talking notes, I put number 5, Emily bullies me. And I'm so sick of everyone looking at this girl like, oh, it's sweet Emily. The girl bullies me 24/7. Now, she claims I have a fragile ego, which probably is true, but she is a bully. Don't fall for that facade she gives everybody.
Gotta love Emily.
I know. I'm just kidding.
I know.
I do. Her and I listened to the Lally song by, man, I'm so bad with that names. Fervent?
Yep. I think it's Fervent.
I always ask him to change the name. I don't know. Fervent. It's so great. And thank you for giving me permission. They gave me permission to use one of their songs. I haven't used it yet. But I love Lally. Now, the comedic thing that I love the most is taking a quote-unquote villain and then totally cheering for him. Instead of actually making fun of Lally, taunting Lally, we should have been cheering him. One, because he's such not adult, he's just a government cog, and it's so great to have him as the prosecutor. You don't want to hang because you have a chance of losing. But with Lally, we should have honored him. And then the comedic value of just saying the F. Hank song, which I freaking love. So the one part I picked out was, Lally's jury was hung just like him. And it's just great to envision Lally with an extraordinary penis, like in life, right? Because he's like the downtrodden prosecutor, but it trumps all if he has like a 12-inch penis, which would be great. And so I sent this to Emily and Corey. And Corey's like me. We can't stand penises, for whatever reason, right? But Emily has to because it's the way she was born. So I go, this is the best part. And there, Emily sends me back a video. She actually covered that exact same part in one of her videos. Yeah, like how weird is that? Like, so and then I turn on your video, and then I just put out a video, and most of it is sort of the similar. Everyone's thinking in the same wavelength right now, and none of that was planned, which is great. I recognize, and I know that a lot of law troopers, I'm not talking to you, but they don't want to really speak anything negative or Karen or even like have a different opinion. They have it privately, but they are afraid to say it here publicly because you do get the backlash when you'll get less numbers if you said something like maybe Karen was somehow involved, not even though it's not true, but just something to that effect. And it's important that we at least open up and allow other opinions in, because mine was changed now because I had you having that voice.
I would agree with that. And I would also say that, I don't like saying negative things about Karen, not because I'm afraid of the backlash, but just because, she's been through so much. I don't want to contribute to making her life harder or making her feel more traumatized in any way. And if I saw something that made me think that she was guilty in any way, I would have no choice but to say it. So, of course, I do not believe that Karen Reed is in any way responsible for the death of John O'Keefe in any way. And there are, in order to understand this story from the beginning, in order to understand Karen's behavior, the 52 phone calls, the reason why she didn't go into the house, the reason why she immediately assumed that he had abandoned her, in order to understand all of it, you have to be honest about just some of the things that I see there, right? Some of the personality traits, some of the decision making. And look, she was a woman. She admits that she was drinking too much, but she's a single woman. She doesn't have her own children. That was a conscious choice, according to what we've heard from her. At least that's what I'm extrapolating from things she said. So she's a single person. She's not married to John. And I don't think it's, I'm not trying to put her down in any way, shape, or form by pointing out that she was potentially overtly flirting with Brian Higgins or trying to get his attention. You can have two things be true. You can want to be in a relationship with John O'Keefe, and it was complicated because of his kids, because they were a foursome, not a twosome, and still be attracted to Brian Higgins and want to hook up with him. Like, you can have both of those things be true, and I think that's what I believe was going on at that time.
Yeah, and when you said in your last video that your senses would have been highly up dropping John off with a quote-unquote jealous Midwest MA jealous boy that could potentially be in the house. And Emily said the same thing. And me, I was not necessarily on that same wavelength. Obviously, I'm not a girl. I don't get that. And what was Karen thinking by not going in? Was it just because it didn't look inviting, which I get, meaning I feel uncomfortable. These aren't my friends. I don't even want to go here. I want to go home, like Lifetime depicted, and just sleep in my own bedroom, whatever it may be. Or subconsciously, was she aware potentially of danger? And I don't think, but they were just together, so I don't know why the environment change would be different. Assuming she did not see Brian Higgins taunting John O'Keefe. I don't think she did. But then again, Sam, now you're making me think. I'm like, well, why wouldn't you disclose this to your attorneys? It's one thing to be embarrassed and whatever, but you're on trial for your life. You have the killer right here. The motive's there. This is a great motive. And did she not see Higgy taunting him? Because it was only, 30 to 40 seconds. Or was she actively concealing it from us being the attorneys?
I think there's another layer too. I don't know that she saw the taunting because I don't think she was looking. When you look at the waterfall video, she just wasn't directing her attention. But the other piece about not wanting to tell the attorneys, that's the whole reason why I was looking at this to begin with, again, this time around, because that's baffling to me. Like I had said, maybe it's because of how I was raised, right, with a kind of a macho guy who had me very just aware of like masculine traits. I would have immediately, without a doubt, assumed that Brian Higgins was responsible for this. The second I laid eyes on John, genuinely, she seems to not have believed that or not have thought that, or at least didn't disclose that. And based on her behavior, it really does seem like she took responsibility or was worried she was responsible that morning because she was intoxicated, because she assumed that the people in the house were safe until Scanlon shows up and says, hey, you got to look at the people in the house, right? So to me, I don't understand it all because I would have immediately assumed that Brian Higgins was involved in this. And I don't think I would have let John in the house without me because there was the possibility, whether or not she saw Higgins' Jeep, because everybody was going back there. And certainly why wouldn't have? Higgins was with Brian Albert the entire night. They were next to each other, play fighting, touching, hugging.
Come on, dry humping.
Dry humping, yeah, like wrestling right in front of her. She must have known he was in that house, right? Like, or at least he was planning on going there. So
it's a good question. Did she know the Jeep? Did she know Brian's Jeep? Because that's very distinct with that stupid plow on it.
Great question. We're going to have to ask people in the chat if they had known. If you guys let us know if you believe that Karen would have known the Jeep. Now, he does talk about this because from what I remember, I'm trying to remember the car he was in when the weed whacker incident takes place. And I don't remember if it was his work vehicle or his personal vehicle.
I do. It was a work vehicle because she didn't recognize it.
Right. So what does that mean?
That's why she says, fuck off. Yeah, exactly. What does that mean? Does his other vehicles involve more than just the Jeep? Now, I once Googled Google Surveillance's sandwich house, and it has the different years. And I was looking for the Jeep, and I asked Emily to bring me to that Jeep and bring me to that snowplow. Yeah.
What did she say? She wouldn't be weed whacking during a season where he had the plow on. Oh, that's true. Good point. What were you going to say?
Damn good logic.
That was very logical.
Yeah, I'm surprised there's nothing in there bullying me. But either way, yeah, it's a good point. But would he be driving around in the actual Jeep? No, he clearly says it's a work vehicle. That's why she didn't recognize him. That's why she was giving him the finger, things like that.
All right, so that makes me think she would have known the Jeep. Yeah.
Yeah, and then if she did, does she really believe that Brian Higgins would attack him there, even though they were just out and they've always been out with each other together? I don't know. I don't think she did. But you look at the war room, and this goes back to the documentary, which was so great in terms of access. Whether there's dispute about finances, we can talk about, but you hear them talking about getting ready for Brian Higgins. Well, like they're all trying to give their theories about that. The real evidence is you have Brian Higgins taunting John O'Keefe as they're walking out. That team completely missed it. I don't care if Karen told them or not. No one saw that. We were all looking to see if they were fighting at the bar, but you have the killer taunting, I won't say threatening, taunting John. And if it wasn't for this community, they would have never found out about it, in theory, until trial number 2, when they can't really use it because you're not calling those witnesses.
And that's the thing about this case, and I've learned that just from my own experience. There's so much evidence, and you can get completely, like, talk about rabbit holes. You can go down a rabbit hole, not at all look at the waterfall video, maybe ever, because there's so much else to look at. There's so many players. There's the cops, right? Different sets of cops. Then there's obviously the people in the house, and there's just so much material. I think that's why they won in the second trial, because they had 10 interns and extra lawyers and extra lawyers' assistants, right? So there was more hands on deck. And with a case like this, there is so much material to go through. You're absolutely right. They missed it. And it makes sense to me because I missed stuff. I watched the waterfall video and I missed Karen's behavior because I was too busy analyzing everybody else.
Yeah. And you bring up another great point is that I was completely wrong about trial number 2, where I know it had to be Alessia, I'm not certain, that said, fuck all this other bullshit about who killed. Let's focus on the fact that there are no injuries to John's body that evidence a car accident. So to the beautiful foreskin foreplay girls that still believe that somehow Karen Reed struck John O'Keefe with her car, no matter how you swing it, you will never have no injuries, no broken bones, no bruising if there's a car accident, especially at 24 miles an hour, which is insane. I mean, I love the girl. This Tuesday girl, I look at her and it's just pure love. So right from the jump, I look at her, and then Sam, I wake up and I see copyright strike from the foreskin girls, the foreplay girls, as Emily calls them. So I look at my God, I know. So they struck our channel, which, you know, in theory, when they do that, if there are 3 legitimate strikes that go through, you lose your entire business, right? So my channel is owned by a corporation. They take it seriously. So within 12 hours, they sent a demand letter to the 4 girls saying, if you don't take it down, we're filing a federal lawsuit in New York County here, for which you'll be liable for the lost income and attorney's fees. Now, I don't know like how they respond. I know that either they did remove it or there's no more strike on the channel anymore. But I was hoping we can get Tuesday's contact information if we did have to sue them. So this part of me was like, man, I hope they dispute it. But either way, I do like their channel for one thing. You're getting a counterbalance. I know people can't stand them, and I say people that believe that Karen Reed is innocent, which I do, 100%. There's no doubt. You can never give me that. I'll never change my mind unless something crazy came out, right? So that's not me. But I look at Tuesday.
So a lot of people are getting struck. I see it in the chat.
All right, so here's what you have to do. And get your own attorney now. This is just general advice. Sam, I can't give legal advice. I've already ran into issue with that one time. So if I was someone not in this situation, you counter the strike. So you file a counter strike, a counter appeal, and then they have 10 days to file a lawsuit against you. If they don't file a federal lawsuit against you, then the strike is automatically removed and they can never strike it again. So file the counter. Don't delete the channel. Don't flip out, everybody. Just calmly actually do a nice counter. And look, if they sue you, they sue you. I sort of represented Emily with the Celebrate. Celebrate did the same thing to Emily.
Yeah.
They didn't strike anyone else, not me, just Emily for some reason. So then we did the counter strike. But then I go, technically they can sue you in federal court within 10 days. She didn't know that part. And they didn't. So she won. And that's what you have to do.
Look at this. Okay, strikes come from reporting a channel. Mine was banned for life, and they wouldn't tell me why.
That's interesting. That used to be the case. I've been in YouTube for a long time. So there were times when you would get 3 strikes and you wake up and your channel's gone. You don't even know. And there's no way to access anything. There's no one to contact. It's a little bit different now. So that probably wasn't recently, unless there was something on there that was so egregious, that was so violent or sexual. Like, you have to stay away from nudity and straight up violence in YouTube. But for the most part now, that's not the situation. But Deadpool, is that Deadpool? If you want to email me, maybe I can help offline.
That's helpful. Yeah, I know that the thing that kills me about all their strikes is that I know, for example, I know that they were focused on you. I don't listen to a lot, but I have heard some of it, and I know that they were focused on something that you did. So I'm not surprised to hear that they struck something on your channel. But the thing that kills me about them is they start out talking about, oh, we want outside opinions and we want people that disagree with us. And everybody that disagrees with them is getting struck, right? Or getting banned. It's like, okay, so you don't really want anybody to disagree with you. You can't participate in their chat, right? Outsiders can't participate in their chat. It's like, come on, guys, right?
It's give
crazy.
advice. I advise a lot of large channels, larger than mine. And the fundamentals were, don't block anyone for any reason, be consistent. And with them, they're just starting out, and it's tough. It's not easy to do what you do. You come from at least someone that's been in the public spotlight, but it's hard to read. You suck. You have a big forehead. Whatever they say about you, you know. So you get on there, and it's easy to say don't let it bother you, but it does. You know, like it's going to.
It can, yes.
You're either going to become a locale and sort of how be successful with that, or you're going to fade away. Those girls got to recognize that you're utilizing other people's work straight away on their videos. They're playing videos from news channels. They're not even reacting to it. Technically, they can get struck by the news channel. That's the ironic part of it. They have every right to issue that DMCA takedown, which they did to me, but then you have to be able to back it up. And I know at our corporation, we come right after you. Like, if you don't remove that strike, we will sue you for the lost income. Like, we have to be aggressive with it. And unfortunately, a lot of people in this law tube world don't get that. So again, I always say, you can come on my channel, you can go comment right now. If YouTube allows it, you could tell me how horrible I am. I will never block you. And it's important that we start embracing some other ideas in order to solve this particular case.
I would agree with you there. Like Kevin Lenahan, who you featured on your, I think, most recent video, because he was talking about having spoke with Terry, the director from The Body in the Snow, and she thinks Karen's guilty, whatever. I don't know if any of that is true. But I read the book that he put out. And the reason that I read it was because he did an interview with Brian Higgins. And I wanted to know, what was the interview about? Anybody who got an opportunity to get on a phone call with Brian Higgins and get information, to me, that was somebody I wanted to hear from.
Sure.
Now, I'm not encouraging other people to go do it, right? Obviously, 90% of what he says is absurd, but I wanted to know, and I did. I ended up not only learning more about Brian Higgins and his family and where he comes from, which was very helpful in understanding his psyche, but also the town and how the town was settled, where all these people came from, where their ancestors are from, and why drinking and alcohol is such a part of the fabric of the community. And it is. I mean, it really is. So, and again, to me, that's always been important in this story for many, many reasons, right? Because alcohol was such a big part of that night.
You're blowing my mind right now. So I didn't know that there was a book with regard to Brian Higgins' childhood and growing up. And you, sort of like me, I love to know the backstory because that really tells what's going on now in the future. So first of all, tell us the book and then tell us about what you know about Brian's history.
So Kevin Lenahan, the guy that does the Yellow Cottage Tales, the person that was on the video, he wrote a book. It's basically his version of why Karen Read is guilty. And it's because, from what I understand, and this was a while ago that I read, this is before the second trial. So what I understand is he initially got involved in the story as a supporter of Karen Read, and then started to get to know, like Jen McCabe, called Brian Higgins, somehow got himself into, comfortable enough with these folks that they were willing to chat with him. I'm pretty sure if I called Brian Higgins, he's not going to talk to me, right? For some reason, they were willing to chat with him, and they had a phone conversation. And that is, from what I can tell, how Kevin Lenahan gets convinced that these people are innocent because they're good people, right? So, and I think from afar, although I very much like Karen Read, and that's why I like her talking, because I think it makes her more personable. We see who she really is. But I could also see how many people thought she was cold. I saw it as defensive during the trials, like callous, not showing a great deal of emotion during moments when they were talking about John or the kids or whatever. But to me, that was all defensive, because imagine having John's family to your left. You had Paul O'Keefe right there glaring at you, his mother right behind you. You could feel, I'm sure, the daggers on you. There's no way to get through that without being fully defended, right? Your whole life, all this stuff that you don't want out there is being thrown in your face. The prosecutor's accusing you of murder. So I didn't perceive her faces and looks to mean anything besides she's in a defensive posture. She's there to fight for her life. But many people perceived it as she's cold, she's not likable. And I think if you compare, Jen McCabe, who obviously has a master's degree in getting people to like her and to get people on her side, right? Versus Karen, who's not playing games, who wasn't really interested in that, right? Not so sweet, not like, yeah. I could see how if you're somebody like Kevin Lenahan, Turtle Boy and Karen Read become the bad guys really easily. And yeah, you like Brian Higgins, you identify with Brian Higgins. Remember, Kevin Lenahan is also from that community, which is another variable too.
So he's the guy that they're claiming is a stunt double for Brian Albert?
What do you mean?
Looks-wise?
I don't know. I've never heard that. I don't think he looks anything like...
I don't know if we're talking about the same person. He had I called him a chooch. People had no clue what that meant. Yeah, and I was he looks like Brian Albert. I didn't recognize that till everyone keeps telling me that. But really? Yeah, it's interesting that he was able to get to Brian Higgins. Now, I'll say this. This is how dopey I am. When I heard this case initially, the first thing I heard was Brian Higgins telling about how this chief would always get on him about putting the cars in the middle of the parking lot for the snow. I fell for that. Whatever he was saying there, I believe, this guy's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. I didn't know about this case. And so when you add those stories, sometimes it does affect dummies like me. But then once you start getting deeper, you realize those stories are what are indicating deception in a major way. So it has worked, and it obviously worked on this guy, meaning if you spoke to him, all of a sudden now you believe that Karen Read somehow struck John O'Keefe with her car, and I can get that. So did he explain anything about Brian's childhood like you said before?
The big thing that I took away from it had to do with how because Brian Higgins has a whole history of being in the fire department. So Brian Higgins, I think his grandfather, I'm not sure about his dad, but he's got this long history of people that are directly connected with fire department, Boston Fire Department, and I think maybe Roxbury, that area. He rose up the ranks of the fire department, became, I believe, the lieutenant, and then almost immediately left to go be a part of the ATF because of his buddy, the same guy that gets the text messages for him off of the feds system. Says to him, look, we're hiring, you should come work with come over and work with me? And so these are the kinds of questions that he's asking him about. He's saying, like, what made you leave to go to the ATF? That was a hard decision because the fire department was in my blood, but I wanted something different, something more exciting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's, a little bit, I think, maybe about his sister who passed away. There's been a while since I read it, but the thing that really struck me was that this is a person, and this is why that segment that I always show of the back and forth between Alan Jackson and Brian Higgins, that to me was the moment of absolute certainty that he was guilty, where Alan picks up on the 1 o'clock reference about where the Jeep was and starts to, you're a military guy, because Alan Jackson is a military guy too. And so he starts eliciting the integrity. I'm also, a tactical medic. He starts eliciting from Brian Higgins his connection to the firefighter, to the longtime military law enforcement guy in him, which brings up all this integrity and pride, right? Because that's how these guys want to think about themselves first and foremost, right? Prideful, long family history, this whole thing, that's where he gets them. And then he starts bringing up the image of the body, and he's kind of gruesome about the way he describes it, Alan Jackson. You didn't see a guy bleeding out on the front lawn. That was the moment. Like, his reaction, he gets teary-eyed. He has this absolute look. He says, if I did, I would have done something to help him. And it's like, well, we all know you did. You tried, but he was dead right away.
That part that you just said was sort of the script that even Brian Albert had too. If I did, I would have helped them. Right. Brian Albert says something similar. I go back and make those comparisons because I have an hour and a half video of what I determine as the script. And there's different parts to it. The Jeep, where it was located, but then also that canned response. Like, if I saw them, I would have done this. Now, I don't know if they planned that part, but they both said that, which is interesting to me. And clearly they're both involved. I always say, Brian Higgins, you're the one who killed John O'Keefe. That I know for sure. I say it with malice, even though I don't need it. You could sue me at any time. Sam, this would be the easiest defamation case because there are certain elements of defamation that you have to prove, but there are certain types of defamation that you don't even have to prove damages. And this is one of them. When you make a claim about someone that commits a crime, especially a murder, then yeah, you can do it. I would take this case in a heartbeat if I was connected to Brian Higgins. I wouldn't even charge him unless we recovered. That's how easy this case would be. And I keep saying it everywhere, but I anticipate discovery, which is what I really want to get at. So I can get the information that I really want to really get at this case. And I don't know if Karen's attorneys ever really did dive deep on the first trial because of her not fully pushing the Brian Higgins narrative and trying to force this other narrative, which I know some you may still believe, but we're not here analyzing Colin Albert and where he was moving and his motives and things like that. And this is why I got to give Turtle Boy a lot of credit. The foreplay girls, they showed text messages, and I sent this to a video. Maybe now's a good time if you have it.
I can bring it up.
Yeah. So I'll give Turtle Boy credit. He's not someone that goes out there and just wants to push a narrative. He pushes for source. And it's so important when you're a journalist, even if you're a guerrilla style type journalist, to have actual evidence of what people are saying, not just to believe it. And what we're going to see, I guess these girls were claiming that these text messages were never seen before. And apparently they're between Karen and Turtle Boy. And if it's true, you're going to see Turtle Boy pushing back on Karen with regard to what happened initially. And I hope these girls don't come and strike your channel, but I'll represent you for free if they do. Only an attempt to try and get Tuesday's contact information. It's not fair that they came after me. I was so complimentary of them. I mean, how many times do I have to say how beautiful they all are, but especially Tuesday?
I think
mean, what
they
else do I
just
gotta
already
do?
had it out for you. They had it out for you already.
Don't worry, I'm used to getting rejected.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. Okay, before we do that, I want to read some of these messages.
Sorry. Let's answer some
we've
questions.
We've got a ton of these too. These guys, man. I know there really is a lot of good content in their stuff. There really is, but it's tough for me to watch. It's just so painful. It really, really is.
Not for me,
Cynthia, I know it isn't for you. Cynthia Marks 139 sends $4.99, says, don't forget that John was suspicious of Karen Yeah, and Brian Higgins hooking up as evidence in the text he read in court. Yes, absolutely, Cynthia. Maybe John threw the first punch. So I actually do think that's what happened. I don't talk about that part as much because I'm trying to figure out, how did Brian Higgins get John alone? I do believe, and I think you would agree with me, Vince, that at this point, the Jeep is outside. It's on the far side of the house, away from the door, the front door, the walkway to the front of the house. And he calls him over. Nobody sees that. And I'm not sure what happens there. Is it immediately Higgins saying, "What's up with you and your girl?" Is it him, whatever he says it in such a way that immediately elicits, I think, an aggressive reaction from John. So to me, actually, I think John probably does throw the first punch. That's my best guess, obviously.
Yeah, there's no way we can know right now. Eventually, Brian will have to put that as his defense. But you're 100% right. I do know that there are 3 spots for that garage based upon Emily's surveillance videos where Higgins, when he pulls out, he doesn't necessarily go on the street. We know that. He probably moved to the right, and that gives perfect cover, especially if it's dark out, for him to call John over. At 12:25 and 9 seconds, John closes his phone after he read the "you coming here" taunt threat text message. But then there's going to be movement at 12:32 of the phone. So there is action with that phone between 12:25 and 12:32. So there has to be a time where they're talking, where it wasn't an immediate knockout. And I was wrong about this initially. I thought it happened straight away. He had to have brought him over out of the cover of everyone. I don't believe those kids ever saw John O'Keefe and Higgins arguing. So the plausible place would be to the right. I know Alan and the team started with the garage thing. I just don't see it naturally as I'm going in their garage. It just doesn't make sense to me. But it doesn't really matter either way. Just him being inside to the side of that house is exactly where you did it, Brian Higgins. Now, if you come clean, Brian, like Sam is saying, you have an out. You could say it's self-defense, right? Because it could be. You're right. If Brian, you're right to a certain extent. If you knock a guy out and let's say he does hit the back of his head, Brian didn't intend to kill him. He could have been intending to defend himself. And if it happens that he hit the back of his head and that's what killed him, then yeah. Now, not rendering aid is something that they would have been obligated to do because you caused this. And if
you mean
that's
call
what
911,
call 911, do anything besides leave him there. It gets interesting though. But then again, if the back of his head did kill him straight away, then Brian, you have a chance of not being convicted of murder, and you have a chance of getting off, which we all want to do.
Absolutely. And I started this because I thought this was interesting from Deadpool. Samantha, some men, especially alpha men, use violence to save face or get what they want. Death wasn't planned. Of course, John was a victim of circumstance, accident during a confrontation. So I 100% agree with this, and I completely understand it. However, I wonder, because as Cynthia just said, because John already had a suspicion. Remember, Karen tells us that she says her voice is killing her softly, right? And so we know that John brought her and said, "What's this?" Brought her the ring video footage and said, "Why are you, whatever, going outside with Brian Higgins?" So it's very possible that he was already defended. And as you said, he just reads the "you coming here" text. It could have very well been that he reads that, looks up, hears him call him over to the Jeep, and then walks over to the side. The other thing that's interesting about the cars, during Matt McCabe's testimony, he tells us, though reluctantly, and you can tell that after he says it, there's some remorse that it came out. He starts telling us that there are 3 lanes, that you actually can fit 3 rows of cars. I think the question he's asked, this is on cross, I think he's being asked about where they pulled up. Do you remember where you parked? I think it's on cross. It might have been on direct. And in that, he ends up telling us that, well, there's 3 different rows that I could have parked. So I think it was here, but I'm not sure because, right? And you could see when he says it that there's something about the positioning of the cars that he doesn't want us to know. And again, Jen McCabe tells us what happened outside is distinct and different from what happened inside. There's a lot of indicators to me that whatever happened outside. People, Sarah Levinson, Julie Nagel, they did not see what happened. I don't know. And the question for me is, at what point did the McCabe's get, savvy as to what was going on? That part, I don't know.
So you mentioned having this
agree.
alpha dad. Now, your dad somehow stays in such great shape. I mean, he's very trim. Was he always that skinny, or does he work on that?
No, my dad's as obsessive a person as I am, definitely. So no, I mean, he's also very vain.
Yeah, so am I. But how does he stay so thin, though?
So he used to run in sleet, snow. Then after running, he would lift weights. Then now he walks a ton because he can't run the way he used to because of his knees, whatever. So he's always worked out.
Okay, yes, I wasn't, because it's so weird because you judge people based upon what you hear with your dad and now you see. But back when here, I wouldn't have thought your dad was a health nut. I would think that he's like this big fat Italian guy that watches the Mets and the Jets all day long. And again, I know I'm bragging about your dad. Now, John Edward Melendez, Stuttering John, who you have some association with, and it's so odd the connection that we have because in my other life, and which is going on right now, Shuli Egar is one of the employees that you were working for as an intern, right? So you know him, and you know Mike Piazza, not the Mets
not
star,
the player,
but
yes,
the other guy, and all those other people. Yeah, so it's so odd that we have that connection. But
that is odd.
I know, and I was talking to him about your dad, and he's a huge fan of your dad. And he's like, oh, do you know how great Samantha's dad is? And, he went from that caller contest. He knew this whole backstory, which I didn't realize. And it's just, there's something comforting about hearing your dad. Now, I'm not into sports, and I'm not like this big alpha guy. Like, when I see a fight, I like to run away. like kind of my thing. Like, I don't want to harm anyone. My biggest fear was always if you knock someone out and they do hit their head, now what? Like, I don't want to get involved in that. It's so easy to say it's not worth it. But then if someone bumps you on the street, right, my body, I become so angry, like you want to harm someone. It's an odd thing for a guy's brain. I don't think girls necessarily have that in them. But what did your dad tell you? Because I have a daughter who's 9, and we're very open about what we talk about. But what did he specifically say with regard to advice about men that you keep referring to?
I mean, my father's like really clear about this, right? I mean, from the time I'm little, men only want one thing. Men and women can't be friends.
That's all true.
Trust men, right?
True.
Yeah. And like,
okay, so he would tell you that.
Yes. And he came from an Italian family. And in that very, very stereotypical family, men all had their girlfriend. It was exactly the old school way where you're an Italian man, you have your one girlfriend who you keep on the side, and then you have your wife, and never the two shall meet. Both show up at the funeral. I mean, like, it was the way that he thought it really was. So for me, he didn't want that. He was like, you do your own thing. Men will always be there. There will always be men. Like, go do you. Don't worry about them. Like, just go have your own life. They'll be there when you're ready for that.
Yeah, my wife showed up to the funeral. She was the side guy. She was only 22, so she didn't know. And the guy was older, and it wasn't his funeral. It was the guy that she was cheating on with, his mom's funeral, and then the wife is there, she's there, and you're 22. She brought a friend with her. I'm sure you've been in this situation. The guy was 32, but that's like ages away. Like 22 and 32
big
are
difference.
huge. Yeah, when you're 62 and 52, it's not a big deal. But so she went with a friend. She went in, she confronted the wife, and then she walked down. She wanted to key the car. Like, this is what girls do. And this is a Jewish girl from Long Island, mind you. Right. So it doesn't matter who it is. We're all human apes. This is all in us. Like, so that jealousy is a psychological reason. There's a reason we have jealousy. It helps our species survive. There has to be. We're not here just randomly acting this way.
No,
so
for sure.
But then of course she got physically sick after all this, like literally that day, like she's like throwing up in her car, like, because like all your emotions are there, all this jealousy is there, and you would act and do things that you never would do. I mean, I'm not sure what Miss Judy did, and again, she's only 4 for nothing. I don't know if this professor's still alive. Like, she hasn't proved to me that this guy's still alive, but she wouldn't even disclose what she did. So jealousy is a really, really important aspect of us as humans and other species as well.
Yes, and this is what I'm glad that Karma Dharma 8 brought this up, since $2 says, I heard from the Massachusetts State Police source that John was belligerent. Brian Higgins is guilty. So, and I think Karen may have even insinuated once that when John drank, look, John is a man. He's 6'4". He's a police officer. I think anybody in that situation, we could generally extrapolate if somebody is, given all those circumstances, we're talking about everybody's very, very drunk. If somebody comes up to you in an aggressive way, as Brian Higgins likely would have, and says, "What's up with your girl?" or, your girl's been texting me, "Are you guys still together?" or any comment, his reaction is going to be defensive, I'm sure. So I completely agree with that. We also, by the way, know Brian Higgins is aggressive. We know that not only because of what he said to Michael Proctor or the whole thing where he goes to the Canton PD, he leaves something to do with text messages at the desk, or Proctor leaves text messages for Higgins at the Canton desk, and Higgins has a huge, in front of everybody, a crazy reaction, screaming, yelling. But we also know, because of that whole incident with the ATF situation, remember, I don't know, you've probably heard about that, where
I did a video on it, yes.
Yeah, so that whole thing where he acted like a total ass also. So we know that he could be aggressive too, certainly. And he's emotional, clearly. Oh my God, for sure. Also just want to welcome new member, Child of God, 621. And Sherry saying, Sherry, calling for Mary Catherine Kent. What did you tell Scanlon? Oh, I'm so glad, Sherry D, that you said this. And thank you so much for your $5. So this was the question that I had. And Sherry D is great. I don't know if you know Sherry D, but she's been on this case going all the way back, like from the very, very beginning. So she has tons of information about the whole thing, all the way leading up to the 2 trials. And I was asking recently, and in passing in my mind, really, how did Steve Scanlon get the information that he had? This is something you and I, Vince, have both been talking about. Is it that he just extrapolated after hearing basically what happened publicly that, must have been that the Alberts were involved because he knows that Brian Albert is a fighter, right? Maybe he's heard that Colin is a fighter. But you're saying that he actually heard from somebody who was there that night, because Mary Catherine Kent, she's one of the girls that are in that house with Colin during that mid part of the night that those people, and of course, never get asked any questions, which is just insane. So according to Sherry D, Mary Catherine Kent is the person that told Steve Scanlon what happened.
Right. And this is important, why we can't necessarily believe any type of hearsay. I believe that Scanlon came up with this theory based upon what he heard in court, and there's nothing wrong with that. And he had a connection to these people, so it makes sense. I would love to see some proof of this, and this is where I will admire Turtle Boy, which I didn't know about him. We talk amongst the group and everything, but I didn't know who he was in private. In private, he's pressing for verification, and it's so important when you're a journalist, if that's what you want to call us, to actually do that. So yeah, if you had some information that he actually knew before all this information was public, then yeah, I would love to see that. But so far, Sam, it looks like the timeline is he comes to United after the injuries to John were made public, which anyone could have done. Now again, thank God that he did, because it sort of got Karen out of the mindset of maybe I did do it because you're drunk. And everything Karen said that morning was so natural to me. I would think, oh yeah, if I was, maybe I clipped him or something, maybe he was running after me. In fact, Karen makes the point, which is very important to you. She says, I thought I wanted to elicit the response by John of running after me. That's what I was hoping he was going to do as she was pulling away from 34 Fairview. Have you ever heard her say that?
No,
yeah.
That makes sense.
And it does. Like, we know those girls in our lives that they say, never call me again, which means please call me ASAP, right?
Right.
You never call someone to tell them never call me again, because you would just ghost them, right? Like, the whole point of never call me, but the whole point of never call me again most of the time is please call me again. And she literally said, as I was rolling away, I was hoping to see John come out, because she was pissed. I've dated girls like Karen. I've dated a Karen like this. Like, they get mad. And she was pissed. Like, I'm sitting here. What the fuck is going on? She never saw John go in the house. And that's my opinion based upon what she said publicly multiple times. Now, this complaint that she filed claims that he either went into the house or the garage, but what she said publicly, which she doesn't have to tell the truth publicly, but what she said she never did. She saw him get out of the car, and then she goes down to her phone, and she's waiting. She's like, where the fuck is this guy? And I totally get it. And I totally get everything she did after. None of those calls shocked me at all. Like calling John a pervert, immediately thinking he's hooking up. I mean, mainly because she's sort of doing the same thing. But I had no issue with that whatsoever. That doesn't imply guilt at all. And in fact, to me, that implies that she's innocent.
Right.
Unless she's so callous, she would understand to do that. That's how girls react when you don't come home. I mean, at least from my experience.
Right. And then you can hear when the message, when she wakes up, so you hear the change in her tone. She's angry. She passes out on the couch. She wakes up, and then she's, John, where are you? And she is panicked. I mean, it is like this fear in her voice because she realizes now he's not out with some of the girls. Like something happened because he never would have not come home, right? And to me, those are very authentic. There's absolutely no way that she calculated to, call 52 times. Nobody has ever done that. Not a single murderer in the history of time has ever called the person they just killed 50 times, which basically ensures that they would be the number one suspect, right?
You know what you do, Sam?
It's crazy.
You never respond to the text. That's what you do when you're a murderer. John's dead. John died. No response. That's the suspect. That's who killed John O'Keefe. The lack of response. You can imagine now at that time, he already knows obviously John's dead, Higgins, when he gets that message. It's 11:52 or around 11:50 in the morning that next day. The natural response would obviously be, what happened? Oh my God, I can't believe it, something. The fact Brian Higgins could argue that he found out at 7 in the morning that Karen hit him with his car. That's why I guess he didn't respond, because he thinks that she's the murderer.
Oh, no, right. I know. People would say that, but that's absurd.
Right. No, and that's why I like to have everyone yell and give their opinion, and you'll never get blocked for this reason, because for me, I want to hear what the argument is so we can prepare for it. And if you're right, then we have to switch up what we're doing.
Okay, so Sherry D is saying, Vince, that's simply not true. Scanlon came forward well before John's injuries were shown to the public. So the other thing that, and Sherry, I don't know, again, the details of exactly what he said. I've seen a breakdown of it, though. And the two things that caught my eye that he does say is something to do with, like, there's vomit. Remember? I can pull it up, but I don't. Something to do with, like, there's vomit on him. And, God, what was it? There's two specific details in what Scanlon shared that were distinct and important and not necessarily part of, how you would perceive the injuries. One of them is he vomited right away, and I forget the other one, but there's two very specific details. And listen, I guess, Sherry, if you know, what is the connection between Scanlon and Mary Catherine Kent? Catherine Kent, is that her name? Or Mary Catherine Kent?
Yeah, I never did a deep dive on those people. You're speaking about there were people other than the House defendants and Colin that were in the house prior to John and Karen arriving that we don't necessarily name all the time. One of them has a very unique name. I think one of the girls has a very unique name, but we haven't really heard about them. And I believe that a lot of the confusion that happened with Colin was, as we're going to see in the text messages, was that initially they were claiming Colin wasn't in the house at all, which is not really what the cops were trying to imply. They're implying when Karen and John arrived there, Colin wasn't there. So
this way,
Sam, we'll get this timeline from Scanlon. I don't want to even debate it. It has to be evidence that we have. So I don't know when the timeline is. And yes, for certain, I heard Yannetti speaking in public about the vomit on the boxers, and the foreskin girls are claiming, and they showed this, that it was after that when Scanlon
is that who's saying that? Okay. All right.
Now, again, I didn't put this all in the video because I didn't think we were going there today, but yes, their claim is that the timeline fits up where Scanlon only comes after this was made public. And I'm sure Emily C., besides bashing me and bullying me, would have an idea as to the timeline, but we need to qualify it. You can't just say someone said it. You have to show me the actual evidence.
Right. Where do we
it.
get that information? Right.
Yeah. And that's
this
the
is
thing.
why I was saying too, like I need to go back into some of the early Turtle Boy shows where he was first reporting all this, and you have to go back, and they're hard to find because there's so many. Let me pull these girls up and let's see what they have to say. I like running the comments on the screen because then it's easier for us to see them. Let's see. Okay.
Yeah, I get distracted when people do that.
Really? Do you?
Yeah.
I'll take them off.
Thank you. Because then I start reading everything. Yeah, it's funny. When Miss Judy was doing her show, Sam, before I met her, she'd play a video with someone, and then she'd play the video, and then immediately she goes to those comments, she flashes them up on the screen, right? So and they come on StreamYard, they come up nicely. And then I said, Miss Judy, I don't want to be as crude, but you're giving stuff away for free here. Like people that pay should have preference over the ones that are just, she finally, like last night she made like over $250 on a show about
really?
I was like so happy for her, stop. I would say stop giving hand jobs for free in the side alley, Miss Judy. And she gets all my humor because we're funny like that. But
that's
so she's giving the pay one. So so this is the
right,
three of the
on.
girls they're attacking me. I mean, one is more beautiful than the next, but this is part of their show. Now they're showing text messages allegedly from, I think, Karen and Turtle Boy initially.
Okay, let's go.
These
They'll read
are
it.
messages from Karen. They are being sent to Aiden. Aiden is in the gray. The date on these texts is April 23rd, 2023. He's very upset. He needs to know that Colin was in the house. He needs to know that actually happened. He says,
Sam?
Did you notice Colin Albert is not listed as being in the house? And Karen says, make sure he knows that the police report is public court record. You can quote it. And Karen says, tell him.
Yes.
Did you see these before? But these girls claiming that no one's ever seen. All right, good. Because I didn't know, because I know I'm not as involved initially as everyone was. Okay.
I have not seen these. If you've seen them in the chat, let us know. I have not seen these. Okay, I'm going to rewind just a little.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have not seen these. I think they're getting, I don't know where they're getting them from. I don't want to speculate. Here we go.
Make sure he knows that the police report is public court record. You can quote it. And Karen says, tell him to show the blood in plastic cups, right? So Karen, from the very beginning, was like, we're going to make fools out of these people. You got to show the solo cups. And so Aiden is still focused on Colin. And he says, but did you notice that? Talking about Colin, that's what he's referring to. And he's like, I don't care about the blood in plastic cups.
No, he
it's
doesn't
like, what
say
does
that.
blood in cups prove?
Okay, I'm going to read these because I don't want the moron commentary. So it says, tell him to show the blood in plastic cups. And then Aiden writes, but did you notice that? What does the blood in the cups prove? And then Karen writes, he was only mentioned as being present after David Yannetti told ADA Lally that we had proof he was there.
Talking about Colin.
Yeah, they didn't. He admit Colin was present until the indictment in June. Red Solo cups and a Stop and Shop bag in the CPD parking garage is not protocol for collecting DNA evidence. Okay?
And I want to comment though, again, I'm complimenting Turtle Boy here because Karen has her motive to obviously get free from these charges. So the red Solo cups and the bag, that's all great information, obviously to help her case, tainting the actual. But then Turtle Boy is dead focused. He's like, I don't give a shit about the blood in the cups because we know it's going to be John's. It's not going to be some real mystery unless, of course, it was someone else's. But he's really focused on this Colin. And the real reason everyone's focused on Colin is because no one's saying Higgins initially. So they're trying to figure out who the fuck attacked John. If your theory is someone attacked him, it has to be someone that had the opportunity, someone that was in the house. And the confusion, I think, at the beginning was they were claiming Colin left obviously before, along with a few other people that left before John actually gets there. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, I'm going to keep playing. Let's see what they say.
Yeah.
He was only mentioned as being present after David Yannetti told ADA Lally that we had proof he was there. Now, this is really important. I want you guys to remember this because David Yannetti, from day one publicly, has said
It's okay.
that the reason why he knew Colin was there was from Stephen Scanlon. So Karen says they didn't admit Colin was present until the indictment grand jury in June. And this is correct. So Brian Albert said in his testimony that his nephew, Colin Albert, had been at the house, right? We know that Colin was there. No one is disputing that. He was there before Colin.
Notice how she jumps over the fact that that was initially kept out of the public information, that they lied about it initially. She just jumped over that, just pointing that out.
I don't know what you're
Karen
talking
and
about.
John even arrived. So then Karen says, red Solo cups in a Stop and Shop bag in the CPD parking garage is not protocol for collecting DNA evidence. Hey, I need to talk to you ASAP. It's really, really important for me to know how we know Colin was in its house. He's really upset about this, right? Because it's a 17-year-old kid that you're accusing of murder. Who wouldn't be upset?
Then it says, 1 second. Sorry, I'm just running out and need to finish. Tom Beatty. But I don't recommend burning Tom Beatty. I can't publish unless I know exactly how you know Colin was in that house. I can't do this via text. I don't know what that means. So I don't know what you mean by Tom Beatty, right?
Yeah, and the burning part, I wouldn't understand that either, what she was referring to. I guess she's saying we don't, I get it. She doesn't want to publicly go against him because she probably still needs him. Now, I never understood this whole Tom Beatty thing, and I've come to learn a little bit about it, but I get where it was his daughter that Colin had called allegedly for a ride, and that's going to be important for Colin's defense.
Yes.
About doing that. Tom Beatty. But I don't recommend burning Tom Beatty. So who is Tom Beatty? And so Aiden says, I can't publish unless I know exactly how you know Colin was in that house. I can't do this via text. I don't know what that means.
He was really mad about this. You can tell. He was so close to doing the right thing.
Yeah, he was really close. He did the same thing with 227. He did.
Oh my God.
And I love this one.
It's so bad.
And TB can't say, quote, the defense had a source that Colin was there. It's important for us and TB. So you guys can read into that what you want.
Wait a minute. And TB.
I think this is they're using the intermediary now.
Oh, this wasn't we've flipped away.
Yeah,
okay.
like I think, I'm not 100% certain.
And
but
so
actually, maybe not.
To-
But you know what? Again, this is a major credit to Turtle Boy. And for people who think that he's just so biased or one way, he's demanding confirmation about a piece of information. Whether you agree with it or not, at least it gives you insight as to what he's doing. And this is so important to have long-term credibility. Anyone can say things publicly and be wrong and not qualify them. He's qualifying the information so far with regard to Colin.
And look at this. So, and then he says, I'm starting to lose confidence. Colin was in that house and I'm freaking out. I don't see how Tom could know Colin was in that house.
You're an exceptional reader. I mean, you're not nearly as good looking as the foreskin girls, but you're great at reading, much better than they are.
Dude, call me. Need to talk. Emergency.
That was a tough one.
Response is, I can't. 1 second. And he says, well, I'm starting to lose confidence. Colin was in that house. I'm freaking out. I don't see how Tom could know Colin was in the house. So this is obviously after they talked. And it's Natalie the intermediary asking,
Natalie,
did it all work out?
It
So
was
sorry,
Natalie.
my parents just left now. And Aiden says, yeah, sorry about that. I just freak out and realize I never really figured out how I knew Colin was in the house. I really wish this man would have stopped there. Do you realize a nurse was in that house, Levinson? So then we're going to go on and we're going to attack those people. Turtle Boy Daily News that Colin Albert called a 17-year-old girl he was friends with at 12:33 a.m. on the morning John O'Keefe was murdered. This is especially relevant given the cell phone data indicating that O'Keefe's body was moved at 12:31, which there is no cell phone data indicating that, guys. I mean, he just made that up.
Anyone who has a teenager understands how unusual it is for them to call rather than text. The girl did not answer but called him back the next day and was reportedly told, never mind. One can easily infer that Colin Albert, who did not drive 34 Fairview Ave that night, was looking for a ride out of there as the adults in the house were looking to protect their young.
This is interesting too, because they don't know necessarily as beautiful as they are, they don't necessarily have all of the data with regard to the phone movement. John's phone is moving at 12:32, and it will stop moving at 12:32 for the rest of its life until 6 the next day. So if Colin did actually call somebody at 12:33,
so true.
I don't know what that person's talking about. If they did, it would be odd for him to be knocking someone out somehow, given his ability at the time, and then calling a girl, Tom Beatty's daughter. The timeline really doesn't make sense. I get it. And I guess the point of this was that there is this guy, Tom Beatty, involved. There is a narrative of Colin. And I think the mistake everyone was making was Colin was in the house, clearly. The question was he there when John was there? Because you need to be there to kill John in order to kill John. So that's the issue that people, I think, were having. They were saying he wasn't in the house at all, which isn't true. He was clearly there based upon the evidence.
Yeah. And I think that we've it's absolutely true that we just don't know how or why Steve Scanlon stepped forward. Was it because he knew these guys well enough to make an inference, or maybe even, let's say, like Sherry's right, maybe Mary Catherine Kent does tell Scanlon, because I do think, if I remember correctly, it's like a stepdaughter or something that knows Colin. It also could have been an inference from that person based on Colin's behavior, right? I mean, I cannot imagine that Colin Albert, well, maybe I'm wrong about this. Maybe I shouldn't say this because...
Just say it.
I was going to say that I can't imagine Colin is going to start telling all his friends that he was involved in a murder, but I'm not so sure I would put that past him either. This is so serious, though. And there's a lot of reasons why. Again, I'm not suggesting that Colin is the murderer, but I still believe that Colin was there. And I have a lot of reasons for it. We don't need to get into it now. However, was he the one responsible for the death of John O'Keefe? I don't believe that he was the killer, largely because Brian Higgins evidences so much consciousness of guilt. Now, could that be because he was there? He somehow was the catalyst and these other guys jump in and have a fight with John? Maybe. I mean, that's possible. But to me, Brian Higgins is front and center in this thing, one way or the other.
Yeah, and I don't like to necessarily say whether people are right or wrong, but the guys that you grew up with the starter jackets, they're a certain type that will punch first. I never saw this. I seen it in high school that literally there are tough guys that generally they're coming from fucked up families, which I realize now, but back then I admired the fact that they would come up to you and literally punch you in an aggressive manner, like to fight, right? So that was never my style. I would never want to harm anyone in theory. Not to say that I couldn't, but I don't see that in little Colin Albert, given what I saw in the videos, not what they showed in court. Whereas if you're telling the privileged white hockey team that you're going to knock them out, what was the song playing in the background, Sam?
Oh my God!
It was Adele. Yeah, it was Adele. Never. I wish nothing but the best.
Is
for
that
you.
the song? I don't think I ever realized that.
It is the funniest thing in the world to see a white kid, I'll call him a rich white kid, threatening a hockey team, saying you're going to knock them out. And their nickname is the Advantage Boys, which I'm just calling the Privileged Boys. And Adele's playing in the background. Now,
I didn't even realize
that's not a tough guy, all right? Like, I've seen tough guys. We're talking 17-year-old. I'm not talking about like 25. There's a huge difference in a boy's body at 17 compared to 22. It is different. And the mentality. Tough guys don't talk like that. They punch you. Now, if you're claiming Colin is a tough guy and he's and also a person that can knock John out who's 6'4", and if he does it right, he could, but I do not see it from this kid at this point in his life. Although the Adele song in the background, I don't know if that was intentional, that is scary when you're getting threatened.
Well, I don't know. It's very tough for me to say. What I will tell you is that at 17, you don't have the impulse control. You don't have the developed frontal cortex because you're 17. Nobody does, right? So you add alcohol you certainly don't have as much impulse control as a adult male, theoretically. Now, alcohol's involved, so everybody's frontal cortex is being turned off under the influence of alcohol. And so nobody has as much impulse control. I don't know. I think that's a tough one for me. I don't know. I would go based on Colin's. I think based on Colin's behavior, I could see him just punching at the air, you know? Drunk
Okay.
for no reason.
Yeah.
It's
That's not the,
based on his behavior. But
and it's not the type of tough guy that I've seen from people. And generally, the guys that I'm thinking about with the starter jackets, the real like thugs, they had really fucked up families, whether there was one parent around or not. I've never really seen it from like a rich white kid type situation.
here's the thing. I have a hard time placing. Okay, we're trying to figure out how did this all go down. If John doesn't walk in the house, and I'm increasingly leaning away from he actually went into the house for a lot of reasons, more than maybe we have time now to talk about. So for me, it's very challenging to get all these people in one room if John doesn't walk into the house. So that's the first thing. In other words, right? You see what I mean? Like, in other words,
100%. They're on the
how
right.
do we get them all together, right?
Right. So if we're claiming that John's walking up to the house, which you are, he's seeing the text message at 12:25:09 and closing the phone, and then Brian Higgins is calling up to the right. Now you're going to put a 17-year-old kid that doesn't have any real animosity towards John O'Keefe somehow getting involved in an altercation between two grown-ass men. Now you look at Colin now, he's not a grown-ass man back then. If you look at the play fight, he's like, this guy doesn't know how to fight. And I believe him, he's never been in a real fight. You can talk all the shit you want with Adele in the background. Your fighting mentality has to come from real training, which he doesn't have, or just growing up being a real tough guy. And that's where I could see that
I see what you're saying. He's not that kind of real tough guy. I would agree with that.
Is going to go up and swing on a grown man, especially Sam in this situation where his dad's friends with him. They live near each other. I would never do that to a neighbor, even if I was mad at him. It would just be so out of the ordinary for a 17-year-old to do. I'm not saying he wouldn't do with maybe some other kids, which he doesn't really have that history. I don't see it. But for him to do it to a 44-year-old guy, I don't see that. There's no evidence of that.
And the other thing is how quickly it all happens, right? I mean, to me, we have evidence of Brian Higgins threatening him in the bar. We have evidence of Brian Higgins eagerly trying to get John to the house. And even more importantly, and this might be the most important of all, we have testimony from Brian Albert, the homeowner, and from Brian Higgins, and from Nicole, and from Jen, and from Matt, separating Brian Albert and Brian Higgins from the rest of the group intentionally, like absolutely intentionally. Brian Albert, he's important. It's his story that he wants everybody else to tell, though they're just too stupid to get it right. He's got them upstairs, completely removed from everybody else during that whole night in his son's bedroom, looking at pictures of his son in the Marines, right? So they had to find a way to get these two men away from the rest of the group for a period of time. That tells you that these two men were away from the group for a period of time. Now, maybe Colin is there too, but it just doesn't quite make sense. If I'm Brian Albert, the last thing I want is to involve my nephew in a murder. First thing I do if there's a murder is get my nephew as far away from that scene as possible.
You're 100% right. And you also have Brian Albert Jr. on both his testimonies admitting Higgins wasn't there when they were looking out the window for the F-150 truck. That's at 12:22 to 12:26. He doesn't know where Brian Higgins is. And I don't know if Karen's team even intended to try and figure that out. Well, I guess they did. They're trying to show that he wasn't there during that time. But that's a critical time because that's a time we're claiming that Brian Higgins is calling over John O'Keefe. So the question is, where is Brian Higgins when he sends that text message at 12:20 and 48 seconds? I'm saying he's probably outside because they don't see him there. And I don't think Brian ever goes back into the house, maybe just for a brief second after this altercation. If you believe that Brian Albert wasn't involved, Higgins comes back in at 12:32 after the actual altercation takes place. And also, Sam, at the beginning, everyone thought this was a beating death. It was not. John does not have the injuries from. It wasn't beating. It wasn't like it was. contact and hit the head. Right. So that, whether it was a punch or not, that's what happened. So this happened so quick. I mean, that happens literally within 4 or 5 seconds. This wasn't a big deal. And probably you wouldn't even hear it if it took place outside. Now, we speculate that he hit his head on the back of the plow, which is plausible, but I don't have any evidence of that besides the fact that they're lying about why that Jeep was not out front. So I'm just speculating with regard to where he hit his head. But yeah, I can't see, to your point, Colin Allen being involved in any of this when this is a fight between two grown men that has a means, motive, and opportunity that was taunting, threatening John O'Keefe. That's Brian Higgins. I don't want this little... I wouldn't even know what this little kid's doing. I've never met him before.
And like I said, Brian Albert's going to want that kid as far away from the scene as possible. So the first thing he's going to do, let's say Colin was involved or he was there or whatever, is going to say, you get out of here. Get out of here now. Like, get away from here. Because he's going to want him to have nothing to do with this or as little as possible. And that's another reason why I think he does race to protect all of the kids. That's the reason why he tries to, eliminate them all from being present to the best of their ability right away. But you bring up a good point. So first off, we know that Brian Higgins is away from the group, right, during a critical period. It's also possible that he walks into the house, sends the text message, and then walks back outside to wait for John to show up.
100%.
In the Jeep, with the Jeep running, so he's sitting in the warm Jeep, just waiting for John to show up so he can grab him right away and talk to him. It's very clear that Brian Higgins is eager to speak with John, and my guess would be that he's outside alone. I'm pretty certain Brian Albert wouldn't have been there with him.
Agreed.
He probably did take the dog outside. That's very likely what did happen. And then Brian Higgins has to go inside to get Brian Albert outside, would be my guess.
Yep. And that would mean that John was knocked out somewhere on the outside of the house and potentially bleeding out in theory. And that's where they really got to get rid of that part of the evidence. And does that involve the sweeping of the driveway? I don't know, because I feel like his plow is not a scoop plow. Like, that would just smear blood around. They have to get rid of that aspect of the crime. And you can't walk across the front lawn when you place the body. That's why I believe they put him in some vehicle and drove it around. And then potentially they could have swept the driver with those tracks, covering those tracks up. But Brian Higgins, we're going to find out the exact truth. You might as well just come clean now. And the offer is still on the table. Emily will pay you $1 million. She's a rich white girl. If you do 1 hour with us without answering any questions, you can have. I'm serious about. We can raise $1 million. I'm sure we can for 1 hour. I mean, Emily's got most of it anyway, probably in her sock drawer. Must be nice to be a rich white girl. Hey.
all right. Wait. We got to hear from the rest of the.
Answer those questions.
All right, let's see. Wait, no, we're going to hear from the rest of these ladies first. Let's see. Do they have more to say here?
John, didn't they arrive at the house at the time?
There's one.
He was hit by the car.
Pass for a little bit. There's another text that comes up right after this.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Family, someone in John's family. So John never spoke to Leanne, and she never once came to Canton.
Wait a minute. Who is this from? This is Karen?
Okay, so this is from Karen Reed to
someone in John's family.
Somebody.
Okay. So there's the picture of them at C.F. McCarthy's.
Okay.
It says John never spoke to Leanne, and she never once came to Canton. She would know exactly nothing. She's from John's horrendously jealous and spiteful side of the family. Turtle Boy's response to her is so amazing. I've read it 6 times. Jen McCabe was calling Tom because Jen knew that Aaron Beatty was in contact with Colin just hours earlier. I don't really want to expose Aaron, but that is why Jen kept calling over there to find out what the Beattys were aware of. And the O'Keefe's McCabe's would like to spin a tale that I was hooking up with Tom, who half of Canton thinks is gay. Sorry,
Hello.
Ned. If you need to break from middleman duties, please say so. I can have John S. take over and give you a reprieve. Okay. So what do you think this says?
Yeah, it's with regard to this Beatty character, and it's a little bit clearer there. I never understood what his involvement was, but apparently we're trying to force, at this time, the Colin narrative. So they're trying to figure out how to get Colin there. And let's assume what you just said was true about Colin most likely not being involved in the altercation, even if somehow he was coming in and out. You could see why we almost lost this trial, because so much energy is being put on Colin being the person. None of this is mentioning the most obvious and the most simple, by the way. I think they have a phrase for that, but the most simple explanation to this murder is not being referenced initially. And admittedly, Sam, I wasn't involved back then. And I know people have these hard feelings and they're so hardened on the fact that it had to have been Colin, but I don't see any mention of Higgins here.
I know. So you wonder, you know, the game of telephone, right? The other
Sure.
thing that you have to wonder is, let's say that Scanlon does believe, and maybe gets it directly from somebody who was from one of these girls, right? Even if that was true, is it possible that it's a game of telephone where Brian Higgins, that, you know, where Scanlon doesn't really know Higgins or doesn't even know Higgins was there? I mean, so many things are possible because it's hearsay, which is precisely why hearsay is not, you know, usually allowed as evidence in most cases, right? Because it is hearsay and very difficult. So we need facts to prove who was there and when. And that's the challenge. I think that's, to your point, what Turtle Boy was asking about. You know, you wonder, like, if we call these people, what do they say? And I do think, to be fair to Aiden, he has had conversations with a lot of these people. That's why he's, you know, the person I think to speak to about a lot of this. But you're 100% right. I think, to me, and the reason why I got back on this entire discussion about Karen and Brian Higgins is because he was completely left out of the equation throughout this entire time. And I understand that it was because someone came along and didn't mention him, but we know he was there. And I wonder at what point they must have known he was there. The defense must have known from their own witnesses, from the witness statements of the people in the house, that Brian Higgins was at the house, right?
Oh yeah, they definitely do know. And we see from Terry's documentary that what they're really focusing on, the well text, is yes, it's important, but you opened my eyes to a total different way to look at what the hell was going on at the waterfall. And really, if you're the defense attorneys, you wouldn't be focusing so much on the well. You'd be focusing on that 11:56 and the next 30 seconds where Higgins is exiting the bar and going, like, you've seen guys before, and you know when a male is trying to fight another male, but also Higgins is restricted because his idol Brian Albert is there too. So like, he respects Brian Albert. Yeah, they'll grapple and they'll dry hump at the bar, but he's not going to cause a complete scene right there. And like, that is just so critical. Like, if you think about it, if you only had 10 people, if you want to include Colin, make it 11, that could have killed John O'Keefe, but you have this one here. Our prep is about this, and you taunting a guy. You're one of the 11 possible in the entire world. It couldn't be you, it couldn't be me, it couldn't even be Emily, as much of a bully as she is. It had to be 11 people, and you have one taunting the guy, and he just happens to be hooking up with the guy's girlfriend.
Totally. Yeah. No.
But where I made the mistake, Sam, and thanks to you in that video yesterday, and actually it takes a lot of courage. This is what I was talking about before, that in this community, it takes courage to say, oh, maybe it wasn't completely Colin, or maybe Karen, not necessarily, she's not at fault for this, but her actions were that of someone who was still in love, or not love, just flirting with Brian Higgins. Like, people can't get over that fact. I don't think Higgins is so repulsive in terms of his looks, in terms of how he's acting, besides being a murderer in theory. He's not that bad of a guy.
Like cops. Some people, some women like police, right? They feel safe. I mean, we even know that, right, when Higgins, you know, tries to yell out the window at Karen, she immediately says, you know, my husband's a Boston cop. Like, there is something that perhaps makes her feel safe about being with a police officer and makes him attractive to her.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, a big pansy like me, I like having like a tough guy in your crew, you know, like, I'm safe. I would say my husband's a Boston cop. You know what I'm saying? Of course it does. Like, it's great.
Totally.
There is a part here where the girls do play a Nettie part. If we just move it a little bit forward.
Yeah, I see it. All right, I see it. It's coming. Here it is.
Thinking about you when you're not in the room.
When this case began, I had no idea who Colin Albert was. I received a tip right from the jump that Brian Albert and his nephew had beaten up John O'Keefe. I didn't even know Brian Albert had a nephew at that time.
Defendant responded, "Do you like me?" I said, "Yes," from jump. Defendant said, "When was jump?" I said, "First time I saw you." Defendant responded, "When was that?" I said, Hillside.
But after receiving the tip, I learned of the conflict that Colin Albert had with John O'Keefe, so I sent a letter to Mr. Lally. I knew that the DA's office was planning to present evidence or witnesses to a grand jury,
Sam,
and at that
can you
early
pause this?
juncture,
Yes.
before anybody had asked them to indict.
Who's in the background there? Is that Nurse Kim, or like, do you know anyone besides?
right here?
Obviously, yeah.
I think that might be Nurse Kim. Hold on, let's play it. I don't know who these two people are. If somebody does, let us know. Is that Nurse Kim?
I notified the DA of 3 potential suspects, the ones that I'm talking
Kind of
about
looks
now.
like Nurse Kim. I don't know.
Brian Higgins, Brian Albert, and Colin Albert.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, see, this how guys get distracted. And then I saw that blonde girl in the back too.
Yeah, you could
Not as
barely
pretty
see
as
her. She was
Tuesday.
like, she's like right behind. Like you barely see her. Anyway, that's so
I
funny.
know, but this is when you need to understand men being truthful, right? Like most of the time we're bullshitting you. We could tell you the fake things, or you can hear the real stuff of what we're thinking. When did you like me? Right from the jump. And it's so funny that Yannetti's using that vernacular. I don't think normally he would say right from the jump. I never used that phrase before this case. When was jump? First time I saw you. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I just fell in love with that blonde girl. You can only see like a little bit of it, but this is what guys are. This is what your dad was warning you about.
No, I know. 100%.
And you have to see Sam's dad dance, because you played John O'Keefe dancing. He doesn't come close to how great your dad is.
No, do you like that? Do you like the little...
Yeah, no, I love it. And Sam, by the way, I wasn't like a huge fan of the sports, but I listened to him at night. But it wasn't like I was like, I'm sure there's guys that come into your life that, oh my God, I love your dad. Like I love the
Oh my
fan.
God. You have no idea.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. But yeah, your dad does have good moves, great body, and of course the face and the voice is just so comforting to most people. Now I'm sure you have a different view on, because it's your dad, but it's a different situation. Like Howard Stern would always say, he has all these millions of fans, and he comes home and his daughters look at him with like total disgust. You know, like he's like, my whole life everyone's admiring me, and then I come home and my daughters just look at me like, you know.
Totally, that's so funny. Yes, no, I've had people literally drop to their knees and propose marriage on the street when they find out who my father is. Sorry, no, not for that reason, because they love my father so much. Yeah, he is definitely a beloved figure in that community, no question. At Flo Askus, member for 5 months. Oh my God, congratulations. That's crazy. I can't believe you've been with me for 5 months. Sam, massive props, building the channel and community so fast. Kiwi fan in UK, love your rational compassion for all. Best wishes, finalizing your PhD. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate your support. And I love that this community is so international. I think that's incredible. It's amazing how this case drew people from all over the world. It's just amazing.
I love that fact. And that's the beauty of America in terms of our export, is our entertainment. Like, it goes so far. Can you imagine caring about like a case that took place in, I don't know, anywhere in England? No offense to like people there, but like everyone from the world is looking at this particular case. I love it.
Oh, yay. Okay, we got some more stuff here I got to take a look at. Emily C., member for 3 months. Hi, Emily. Scanlon talked to Yannetti on, February 3rd. Scorty Bello autopsy was conducted on 1/31. Report issued 4/14. No public info before Scanlon talked to them. Okay, here we go. Copy. And then we have Aussie Insider. Thank you, Aussie. Aussie sends $2. Says, Sam, check your SMS. I am doing it right now. Let's see what she sent. All right. Oh, what is this? This is interesting. Let's
Is it a voodoo doll of me? Aussie hates me. But I like her, though.
That's so funny. I guess only Jen McCabe is into those. Do we really believe that, by the way? Do we think that was true? That Jen...
So you're talking about a rumor I heard that apparently she being Jen McCabe has a voodoo doll. I don't think so. And even Karen in that interview said she doesn't believe it.
I think that's hilarious. Would it surprise me though? Not terribly. I don't think
What was your opinion on the documentary overall?
I thought the documentary was great.
Me too.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
Have you ever been involved in a documentary?
Fallout. I've been involved with. I had a client once who was, did documentary films and was involved in a very small moment of it, but nothing serious.
Yeah, because there's a total difference with regard to someone like Terry who's coming from established media entertainment background compared to sometimes kids that are just trying to get in. I get both sides, but a documentary is easy. All you need is a camera and people and a story, right? So you'll have in the industry a wide array of people. I guess on some level with movies it's like that, but there is a barrier to entry with movies where you have to have some form of money to start producing it, whereas a documentary you can literally be a kid with a camera. I've dealt with those kids too, and some of them have gone on to do amazing things with regard to it. And that's where, like, Turtle Boy, I guess he had a deal where they were willing to pay him for a documentary. Every time I've been approached with it, it's like, oh, it's not customary to pay. I'm like, all right, well, I'm the one not getting paid. But I never thought of it in terms of compensation. I don't know how much money that thing was sold for to HBO. And generally, there's not a lot of money in documentaries. So that was the issue. If you don't know, Karen had a dispute with the person doing the documentary, Terry being the girl from Unsolved Mysteries, which I said in my video, that show scared the shit out of me as a kid.
I know. I couldn't believe that she was. I'm so glad you found that. I had no idea that's who she was. And I think, and Aussie, thank you for that. I'm going to pull it up in here in a second. I think one of the challenges, the thing about the documentary, Karen wanted to tell her story. So it seems like what happened there, because I think all of us were like, she's got these crazy lawyers. How do they let this happen? Seemed unlikely, except when you hear from Terry, the filmmaker, it seemed that Alan and Karen reached out to them to have them, get that access because they wanted Karen to get her story out without her having to testify. And Karen was so eager to do that she kind of insisted. Like, I think in the beginning, it appeared as though that was going to be the payment. And she said, as you pointed out last time, that there was this, what is it called? Son of Sam? Is that what it is? Law?
Yeah, Son of Sam law.
Yeah. And
which would prevent you from profiting off of a crime. If you wrote a book after committing a crime, you wouldn't be allowed to actually obtain the profits from it. And she says, Karen, that midway through the production or midway through the negotiation, it's hard to decipher exactly, she finds out that Massachusetts doesn't have that prohibition. And my argument was that, yeah, that's great, but you should know that before you make the original deal. And I think Karen's more upset with the fact that it wasn't just a one-sided documentary only detailing her side.
Yeah. Also, she didn't see it. And to be fair, I know that makes sense. I'm sure I'd be upset too if I gave these people all this access and then they didn't paint me in the most favorable light. But I think that documentary filmmaker is 100% right. If you came in supportive of Karen Read, you walked out supportive of Karen Read. If you came in supportive of the other side, then you walked out supportive of the other side. It didn't really do anything to sway your opinion one way or the other. It just gave you access. Period, right?
100%. And that's the beauty of all of this, is that so much was on video. Can you imagine if trial number one was just a normal trial that never had any video? We wouldn't, think about it, we wouldn't be able to analyze Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. We wouldn't see them lying. They would have got away with this, for sure. And then when you have Terry doing all this work in the background, there is information from her documentary that's very useful to all of us in helping solve this, because it's so unlikely to get access. And she's showing that their team was not focusing on Brian Higgins in trial number one. I mean, it's sort of an afterthought to them. And at only one point does Alan say, yeah, there's some evidence that Brian Higgins could want to wish harm upon John. That is very passive. I mean, we're out here, I'm out here, not you. I'm out here saying this is a goddamn murder, and there's so much evidence to support that. That's where the whole focus should be if you're trying to prove it. Now, Karen's just trying to get off the charges. She doesn't have to prove who killed John O'Keefe
right.
in either trial. But they were going after the fact that someone in that house, multiple people, beat John to death. That was their argument. So
And the other thing that we didn't know, I mean, they knew it, we didn't know it, that Berkowitz and Higgins were in the Sally Port for a wildly long time on that night. Now, on the day that this happens, 1/29/22, right? That next day, I guess. That's another really critical piece of information, because it's Higgins and his best friend is Ken Berkowitz, right? And because, you kept bringing up Berkowitz, I've mentioned him many times. Of course, I knew that he was close, but it never dawned on me until I watched that LVCopsTV with Peter Murphy. And thank you to whoever was the person that suggested we watch it last week, because it was huge. There's a number of huge moments in there. One of them being, Brian Halbert, we used to just wave him upstairs. The other being, these guys are not incompetent. They knew exactly what they were doing. And the fact that they didn't do it means that it was nefarious. There was intent, right? But it wasn't until I watched that I really went, you know what? Berkowitz would have been the first phone call. There's no mention of him. There's no mention of this. This guy's the chief of police. Yeah. None of these cops mention him being called, mention getting a call from him. The only person that mentions getting a call from him is Brian Higgins. Nobody else mentions the chief.
Well, then, of course, there was Lank, who got a call after Berkey threw that piece of taillight onto the front lawn, and he gives him a call saying, go and look at the front lawn. So there's some reference to that.
Let's go before that. So
this is weeks later.
So the 5-minute phone call that morning. Okay, there's a 5-minute phone call where Mike Lank literally is walking away. He's on the phone for 5 full minutes. We see him on the camera. He's ignoring, Good. He's ignoring all the other cops. He literally wants to be left alone. He's pacing around. He's on the phone for a full 5 minutes. Immediately, I thought, okay, it must be Brian Albert because of their relationship. But then, after watching this interview with Peter Murphy, I start thinking, maybe that's not Brian Albert. Maybe that's the chief of police. Maybe that's Kenneth Berkowitz calling and saying, this is what you're going to do. You're going to do this, you're going to do this, you're going to do this. Because, listen, you know better than me. Law enforcement is a paramilitary organization. Nobody on the ground is doing anything without it being okayed, greenlit, rubber stamped from everybody above them. So this whole thing with the cops, this isn't Proctor. I mean, Proctor's a piece of crap, but he had no authority to do anything here. Like, this is Brian Tully, Chief Berkowitz, and probably Morrissey. These guys are coming together. They're making all the decisions, and they were very clearly trying to protect both Brian Albert and Brian Higgins from harm's way.
That's 100% true, and it's all coming to fruition right now. We could see it a lot more clear based upon everyone doing this. Now, Sam, you had referenced the car position. There is a cruiser that pulls up on the opposite side from Seraph, and he would have a good view of that driveway. I still haven't seen that video footage yet. I don't even know if we have it yet, but I'll call on the Queen, Corey Hopkins, who, by the way, she's worse than me with regard to these women. I see she barely talks to me, obviously. But if there's a hot girl out there, and all of a sudden everything is focused on her, and perhaps are we allowed to bring in another person on these Nooners show?
Of course.
I would like to have,
yes.
we can add.
You can invite everybody in. Yeah.
Okay.
Course.
Yeah. All right. Good. So maybe we'll get some guests for our next show.
Definitely do guests. Okay. So Sacred Justice sends 499 says POV Chloe attacked John immediately and he started punching dog and someone pushed him and he fell back. Higgins didn't get the chance to fight. The only reason why I don't immediately always jump right to like Chloe was the one that caused the force that caused John to fall back is because of the injuries on John, because he has not only the bruises on both of his hands, but also he's got cuts on his face that had to come from somewhere. There is that scratch on his knee that could have come from Chloe jumping up on him. That could have definitely been from Chloe. But I don't know that he would have gotten like this perfect knuckle, like right where the knuckles would have hit the top of an eyebrow. It's such the perfect spot to have been hit in the face with a fist. And there was glass in his nose. And that's interesting too. That I keep coming back to. It makes me think, all right, was Brian Higgins, maybe he did have a Jameson and Ginger in his hand, and he actually did have one of those at the Albert home and, punched him with a glass in his hand. It's not impossible, right? But that's the reason why I always jump not to a fall of any kind, but an actual aggressor. Also, if it was a fall, what the hell? Like, why not just immediately call it in if nobody had anything to do with it? If it was like the dog was outside and jumped on him, I mean, okay, yeah, Brian Albert, but really, I mean, you're not going to call it in because of the dog? That to me doesn't make sense.
Part of the fight game is watching guys get knocked out, and once you're hit in the particular way where your brain is actually moved, this is not when you hit the back of something, but with a punch, if it's done in the proper way, you become unconscious immediately. So as you're falling back, you don't have any way to move or brace yourself, which is most likely what happened here, because the one punch deaths that we see are not from the punch, ever from the punch. It's from hitting the back of your head. And that's generally because you're knocked out in between the time you got punched and the time that you're falling stiff. It happens a lot in fighting, and most likely that's what occurred here. I don't think Chloe could land that punch.
No, I don't.
Plus, Chloe's a good dog.
No, Chloe's a good dog. I wish I had that clip right now. It's so cute. Well, Emily C. So, Jenny Lulu, 2 months, member for 2 months, and so happy to see you today. Thank you for continued support, dedication to revealing the truth, justice for Officer John O'Keefe. Thank you for your support. Thank you for being a member for 2 months. Thanks for being with us today. Aaron Lamson sends $2, says, tell Loophole about the football cleat. I saw the pic. Did you see the football cleat?
No. What is that?
Wow. That's interesting that he didn't see it. Okay. I wish I had it right here, right now. I might have it.
Well,
I could try to find it.
it.
So there is a picture. Somebody did a breakdown on Facebook between Colin Albert's football cleat, the design on the shoe of his exact cleats, and the injury to John's head. And it does, I mean, look, it's a situation where you could try to make two things fit together. Sure, you could argue that, but it does appear like the marks on the back of John's head could be lined up with that shoe.
No. I get it, but you won't be able to cause that type of injury with a kick.
Yeah, the only problem with that is the coup contra coup injury.
Yeah, no way.
It didn't come from.
Oh, right, you're right. It would, especially if no, it's not going to happen that way. But I like the theories, and again, I'm not bring them here, especially if you're going to pay us to tell us a theory. Like just kidding.
No. I mean,
yeah, no, it's good.
Theory.
Yeah, I just can't. You can't do it that way. And then I didn't know what coup contra coup was, so I can claim I'm in this fight game. Those black eyes, if you looked at it, you would thought that he was getting beat. I had no idea that happens when the brain moves forward. So you learn as you go, especially as an attorney in these type of situations.
Absolutely. And
Aussie, I still like you. Aussie, don't. I'm just joking. I know.
Oh, and actually, I was going to bring this up, Aussie. Thank you for reminding me, even though you didn't mean to inadvertently. Aussie has a couple of really helpful videos that I wanted to mention to you that just came out, looking at actually Catherine Peter. It's a couple of like a series, right? And looking at these different possible federal charges that could be brought against her. Now, in that conversation, there are some really interesting and very well thought out, Aussie's so smart, arguments, really smart, that are very, very interesting to take a closer look at. So if you have a moment, take a look. And everybody else, if you haven't seen the new videos from Aussie Insider, check them out. They are really insightful, and it sort of lays out, yes, they're about Catherine Peter or Krusty Panties, but it also lays out sort of the really important relationship between Turtle Boy, his case, and Karen Reed's case, and the overlap, and then how all these people really were working together in a conspiracy. And that's also something that I don't think, to your point earlier about Karen Reed's team and what they focus on, I think it's only now that she's speaking out more come to light to me how different her view is from all of us, right? Because we're out here, we're looking at everything, right? We're not focused on Michael Proctor. We're not focused on, one a few people. We're focused on this whole thing, trying to put all the pieces together. And it makes sense because she's had her liberty on the line. So, of course, she's been focused on what her experience has been of these people coming after her. And for us, it's been like this whole other animal of looking at all of this information. So that's really interesting. And this series of videos, you get a broader view and you start to see, hey, wait a minute, there's a lot of players in this thing. It's fascinating. So
yeah,
check it out.
And Aussie, there's no real animosity I have to you. You know that I'm a fragile male, that I can't do well with really smart, intelligent females, except for Tuesday.
Tuesday. By the way,
I will say this.
Where they're from? Do they ever say where they're from? I think they're from Michigan based on their accents, but I can't actually tell for sure.
I think Tuesday's from Indiana for some reason. I had Corey Hopkins rank them by looks. The beautiful thing about having a friendship, or I say being in love with a lesbian, is we both have the same goal, right? Like we both love women. So it's nice. So Emily's there, you know, she can't help but she's straight, right? But I'm like, all right, rank the girls. So I ranked Tuesday number 1, Dalai Lama Mama number 2, the redhead number 3, and then the other brunette number 4.
Oh, interesting.
And Corey ranked Tuesday number 1, obviously, but then she would switch 2 and 3. And Emily's there steaming and just getting mad at this because she doesn't get it. She doesn't like vagina like we do.
Oh, God, gross. Okay, Andrea Patterson, 85, sends $9.99, says, do y'all think the replacement of the basement floor, oh, good point, before selling the house was really a coincidence, though? The wood on the floor didn't even match, as if it was done in a hurry. So there would have had to have been, remember a couple of things. It drives me nuts. It drives me nuts that Proctor never mentions the vomit on John. That is so upsetting to me. It's so obvious. Never mentions blood. Never mentions the fact that there isn't blood. All of that is just so upsetting. But this is an interesting question. What's your response to this question?
Yeah, I usually tune out the basement stuff only because I don't believe John was ever there. And I don't want to get distracted. I'm not putting this down, too. If there comes a point where you can show me that somehow he was in the basement, got past all those kids, and they were able to conceal this information, then, yeah, I'll focus on it. But I can't concentrate so many things. You see how distracted I get. I see a little picture of a blonde girl in the background. I get distracted. So I got to focus just on solving this best I can. But if you show me evidence, I'll deal with it.
And to your point, I really appreciate that. I appreciate that you are very like you're sort of focusing very specifically on this piece and you're taking it one step at a time, whereas I could never do that. I am being pulled in 40 directions always, and kind of wherever the most dominant noise is the direction I'll go in at any particular time. But
there's
really
a huge flaw in my because besides getting easily distracted by blonde girls, I can also have tunnel vision. I get that. So like I don't believe this took place in the basement. So I have to be careful of that. And that's why I'm appreciative of people that have a different opinion and could show it, not just say it. And again, I will credit Turtle Boy for wanting someone to prove something, not just say it, prove it before I go public with it. That was very interesting to see.
Well, and I can imagine for Karen and her team, you know, somebody comes to you and brings you that, you know how much it took for them to do that. You know that this guy was a friend, a longtime friend of the Albert family. Could not have been easy for him to go to them, to bring them this information. And, you know, of course you're going to take it and you're going to believe it. You're going to want to believe that it is legit, that it is credible. And if it did, and it appears it did, come before the injuries were public, and it did come fast, so it would be hard for me to believe that it was public information. But, you know, to me, I could see how they wanted to take that and then find a way to make that theory fit because somebody brought it to them. I mean, of course, right? It's like, no, in your mind, you just keep coming back to that. But as the defendant, and look, I think this is really tough for me. It's very, very tough for me to understand how Karen just could not at all see Brian Higgins as a possible aggressor. I keep coming back to that because it's tough for me. The only thing I can come up with is it wasn't that big of a deal for Karen. She really didn't know or didn't believe that he had strong feelings for her at all. So she just, in the large timeline of things, did not register that these texts were significant, and certainly not significant enough to lead to a physical assault that resulted in his death.
Yes, 100%. And I told you about that special time where Brian was in, myself was in, where the girl is more than just a hookup in your mind, and they don't even know. And so everything in your mind is questioning, how could she like me? It's so insecure. And then she doesn't even have a fucking clue. And that could be the plausible reason why she didn't make this such a big issue in the first trial.
Mm-hmm. She clearly didn't want to. Like Aiden said, he didn't find out about the text until, I mean, think about that.
That's wild.
It's wild. And it seems like Karen was defensive about the text because she thought that the prosecution was trying to use the text to prove that she had a motive. Like that was part of why she wanted to hurt John. Right?
I've dealt with clients like Karen before, and they're very tough to prepare for, to testify, because they're intelligent, they're involved in every aspect of the case, and it's good and it's bad on certain levels. But yeah, she thought that any type of negative towards her, we need to get rid of, as opposed to workshopping it or bringing it out there. And obviously that's her right to do, but ultimately it was that what led her to almost being convicted. And clients do lie to their attorneys, even though you don't have to. Obviously, you shouldn't. But it happens more than you would imagine because they don't want to look bad. You know she didn't do it, but she doesn't even want to look bad at all. Sort of a type A personality, which you have to recognize that you're dealing with in this situation.
Yeah. It's interesting, though, because, Karen and Alan Jackson get along so well, obviously. And they're both pretty strong personalities. So it's pretty interesting to me that these two sort of very strong characters are so connected, because it seems like you might think that it would be they're both too strong-minded to be able to complement each other, but obviously that's not the case. They obviously
I'll tell you why, because Alan's used to dealing with the celebrity client, and that's a skill that you have to learn it, and you have to see it, and you have to placate a lot and say, oh, Karen's so smart. The last thing you want is a client involved in the case the way she is. This is just from an attorney standpoint. But
that's so interesting.
I learned that it does help because they're following every single aspect. It helps sometimes because they want to be involved and you want to be the one in control. But yeah, Alan's good at doing that. What do you think about Alan having a YouTube show now? Did you see any of that?
I mean, I did see that. I couldn't figure out. Well, I heard Karen say that they're going to have a YouTube show, right? Is that right? And that
right, the Read Files.
The Read Files. That it's going to be primarily focused on, the larger sort of context for her case, like what happened in the larger sense, how the judge interacted with them, what they were denied, sort of the whole thing, soup to nuts, which I think would be amazing for all of us. I think it's incredible. It's going to give us a lot more information that we didn't have, that I can't wait to have. So I'm excited about it. And I think it's a way for Karen to make money, kind of to Aiden's point about Karen not having cashed in on any of this. I hope that they do. I hope she does make money doing this because, she does deserve. This is her story. It is her story. She deserves to make money on it.
Yeah, YouTube's a wild business, though, because you may think that those two coming in, obviously they have a name, but if you just stick to general topics and general cases, I'm not sure if they're planning on just focusing on Karen's case. I think seems like they're trying to focus on other cases too. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I don't know how it's going to go or not. Obviously, I welcome it, but it will be interesting to see if it becomes successful. The way you do it is you have to be authentic and you have to really be able to embrace everyone. This is what, as beautiful as those four girls are, they don't embrace anybody, right? It's only people in their own little bubble, and that only goes so far. And it's so nice to see the conflicting view every now and then, at least.
I agree.
And to not block anyone for any reason, girrs. As beautiful
so
as you
my
are.
argument with this has been, like, I have had people email me and they immediately, people from the anti-Karen Read camp email me, and rather than come at me with facts and, logical arguments, it's always like, you're stupid. It's always like criticizing first and emotion and anger. And it's like, look, if you want to have a real discussion about this, I will happily engage it. If you're just here to like blow, shoot out criticisms or call names, that's not legitimate. That's just you're being emotional and angry, and great. I'm not going to block you, but I'm not going to engage it. And then inevitably it results, in this case anyway, them threatening me. And it's like, we really need to be threatening each other over this. Like, okay, I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to start threatening you back. I mean, obviously. So,
Or results
to me,
in
it's silly.
a marriage proposal, apparently.
Let's hope
People
not.
propose you because of your dad?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. People love my dad.
Oh,
has
I know. I
fanatical
forgot how
fans.
comforting his voice and personality is. Oh, at the beginning of this video, the Dalai Lama mama, she gives her opening and she's reading it. And one of the biggest criticisms I have of Alan Jackson, anyone else that speaks in public, do not read. Now, someone like your dad, on the other hand, is so adept now at speaking, and he was when he was even a caller. And I don't know what kind of background he had at all in this. Sometimes it's not even a learned thing, but you have to learn to be able to speak without reading something. And that was my biggest criticism of Alan. And I can never give someone a 10 out of 10, especially in opening and closing, when you're constantly going back and forth. You cannot read in public. That was a huge flaw. And you saw that in the documentary where he has all these cards lined up and everything has to be in this particular order. You know this case. And this is something that's been taught to many attorneys. You have to be able to convey it in a simple manner, but without putting your head down and reading Alan like this. And it's easy for me to criticize from this point, but people that have learned this skill over time that your dad has, it's amazing how great he is at this compared to the Dalai Lama, who was just reading her opening and it just comes off flat.
No, my father has never prepared, never written anything down, never ever.
Really?
No, my father just has, like I told you, he really does have like a Google-like memory. It's teeters on, like right now he could tell you in 1974 on a random Tuesday who probably the Indians were playing on a noon game, right? I mean, he literally can tell you almost anything at any time around sports. And he just starts talking. So yeah, he's just like that. He was a food salesman before he was in sports radio. So there was no planning for it. It's just who he is like,
Wow.
It's like the job
That's
was
crazy.
made for him, honestly.
Yes.
It's crazy.
everyone
That's why
has,
people love him.
Yeah, and everyone has like that Italian Goomba in their family that thinks they could do it, but your dad actually can do it, right? Like the personality type, but he can do it on a professional level, which is so impressive to watch and listen to.
And that's why people, I think, like him so much, right? Because he managed to infiltrate a world that typically is pretty closed to outsiders and to do it professionally at a high level.
Now, John Edward was saying your dad was making upwards near 7 figures. Is that true at all?
No. I don't know where somebody got that.
Yeah, because radio doesn't pay that much. I know he moved on to more TV/radio, but radio has notoriously been cheap. Do you know who Artie Lang is?
Yes, of course, yes.
Oh, you did? Oh, no, I forgot. From the house.
Yes, of course I know Artie. And Artie knows
sorry.
my father and knows him well. Like,
I was just going to say, the other person that I know that you can ask those random sports questions, almanac style, is Artie Lang. Why did I just ask if you knew Artie? Of course. You worked at the Howard Stern show. Yeah, but he's similar to that, I would take it.
Yes, and he loves my father, Artie Lang. He loves my father.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. That was weird, though. We'll get into that at a different time. Pastor Mike Boyle sends $5 and says Chloe was in the garage because she was not good with strangers, and John went into the garage accidentally and got attacked with the Bryans, and the Bryans covered it up. Okay, so Pastor Mike, I love this one. This one feels like an obvious one to me with a few problems. First, I don't know that Brian Albert, maybe you're right because it's not attached to the house. So maybe that's why he puts the dog in the garage, because it's a place that the dog can't get out. But the garage wasn't heated. It's going to be a lot colder than probably the basement. Do we really think that he would take the dog out of the house to go into the garage as a place to be away from everybody else? Maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. Actually, it's not a bad
it's
point.
not
in the sense that, right, like he's only doing it when people are over so that the dog's not flipping the fuck out. But there's been no evidence that he would actually have to walk him outside, pass through the breezeway, and then to the garage. Although that it's plausible. There's nothing. Yeah, it's not impossible. It's definitely not impossible.
It's not impossible. The only thing, I mean, I actually have run this by a lot of people that don't even really know anything about this case. I have asked, looking at the front of this house, if you were to walk up to this house because there was a party, which of these 3 doors would you approach? And I get 2 answers. One is, actually, more often than not, people point to the front door, the formal front door, because if I don't know the homeowner, I'm going to go to the front door. But nobody goes to the garage.
Does anyone choose the back door?
Because you can't get to the back door, right? That's no.
Sometimes you can, with a little convincing.
It's cute.
I'm not into that, though.
So,
sorry.
I
don't know why Emily doesn't like me.
Should I put up the bullying thing again, Emily? No, I'm.
All right, yeah. So,
I forgot. Okay, go ahead.
The right door. And that's what I ask people, because where we're from, we don't have breezeways like this. There's the front door, the back door, and usually the garages are either separated or you can get to them from inside the house, which I thought was interesting, that you can't get to the garage from inside the house. So the garage, if you're going to go there, people are going to see it. I don't know, but it's not. The thing is, it's not impossible. So we can't rule it out yet.
Not impossible.
It's not impossible.
No, it's just bizarre. I mean, basically what it would mean is Brian Higgins is waiting for John in the garage, which is not impossible.
Garage.
Right, garage. Exactly. Okay, let me read this again. How do you say this? Sieb Ann sends $9.99, right? I do know people who were Team Karen, saw that, documentary, and decided she was guilty. That's really interesting. Oh, wow. I'm so glad you said that. In my opinion, it was very anti-Karen. That is so interesting. I would love to know what about it made you feel that way? What do you think? I mean, Vince,
the first one,
think?
Yeah. The first one makes sense because there wasn't the focus on the injuries as much. Obviously, it wasn't the focus of the case. Trial number 2 is all about that there was no injuries to John to evidence a car accident. Without that, there's no case against Karen, which was the smart move.
And ARCA. I mean, we got to see ARCA's additional testing in the second trial, which was phenomenal.
I'll say this. I was so unimpressed with ARCA throughout this entire thing. I don't know why. Maybe because it was the hype, but also when they did the demonstration, I'm like, fuck, that's actually how it could happen. You saw them put the elbow in front of the taillight and it shattered, which I was surprised. I didn't think it would shatter by doing that. Then they saw him hit poor rescue Randy, and Randy goes flying, right? And he gets this thing. So then I'm visualizing this, but then you realize, and this is thanks to the women, none of that could happen without broken bones. Like, it would be impossible to shatter a taillight without shattering your... And then it all made sense to me. I was not impressed with the way they testified either, and this is to them. They have a lot of negatives. When we go through and you examine someone in their testimony, you grade them on every single question. Meaning, if I ask you a question that can be answered with a yes or no, and you tell me a story, you tell me about your kid's birthday, and you give a shout out to them, these are all negative, so you get a negative for that question. I don't think that they were scoring that high. A lot of times you get experts that, and I've made this mistake, you're like, oh, it's an expert, I don't need to prepare him. This is like when I first started. And then you realize these guys or girls are going off on these tangents that have nothing to do with this case. You have to learn the technique of answering a question and not being combative and being authentic in your testimony. This is all from a legal standpoint. I know you girls think he's so hot and everything. You know, Corey and I disagree with that. But with regard to the way they testified, I was not impressed. Now, of course, I loved the women on our side in trial number 2. And that's what brought me back to, all right, fuck Rescue Randy and all his bullshit. There's no injuries to them. And I was a little disappointed in Scorti Bello. Is she Italian with that last name?
Yeah. Irene Scorti Bello, 100%, yes.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, it's like, you know that there was no car accident. Be more frank about it. And Sam, I never realized how important it was for them to not have that classification as murder. I didn't realize in the police industry that it's never happened. And there's a reason, and we talked about this last week, the red flag should have been going up all over the place with regard to that. So, that's my...
Yeah.
And it's not to diminish your opinion of ARCA with regard to the case. I really didn't focus so much on them, so I shouldn't really say so much that they diminished the case, but I thought the women did a lot better than they did in terms of the experts.
So the doctors, what's her name? Laposada. Dr. Laposada was she was a home run, an absolute all-star. And how about the fact that the judge, this is where the bias is like, you can't even make it up. Dr. Laposada spends over an hour just with her qualifications. It goes on for so long. I remember I cut it just to see how long it was. And it's 60 minutes, full 60 minutes of just her telling us how amazing she is. And this is this judge almost didn't let her in, almost didn't let her testify. Says she wasn't qualified. Like that is just so outrageous.
Yeah.
It was so bad that she couldn't do it in the end.
Right. And that's the thing. I always judge Bev on the final result. What's going on before, after she pushed back. She's annoying to deal with regard to the objections. It's not proper what she was doing, but maybe it's permitted in Massachusetts courts. It always should be objection and then the basis, not a speaking objection, relevancy objection, hearsay. All you have to do is say objection. Now, I know Lally's amazing, but like you can't just speculate what the objection is, and then they have to go to sidebar and deal with it. So I don't believe Bev was like so hard against the plaintiffs. I'm sorry, Karen's defense team. Yeah, but she was sort of weirdly even-handed when I go back and watch the trial, because if Karen's team made objections, she would do the same thing to Lally, and then just re-answer. I know people think it opposite, but I didn't. I see where she was giving Alan. She hated Alan, which is funny.
Alan.
How great is it? Like Yannetti's going up there, and Yannetti's got the great personality for this because he's authentic. He's not as aggressive as Alan is. And actually, in the documentary, we see at one point, Yannetti wanted to say something. I'll get the actual clip, but it was like, perhaps Colin was in the house. I don't know that. Alan's like, no, you take out that perhaps. And I agree with Alan on this. You have to be definitive in what you're saying, right? So you saw the different dynamic in the two.
Yes.
Where Yannetti is the guy that has all the credibility, and Alan's more of the showman type person, which made for a decent dynamic between the two. Mm-hmm. And then but that rubbed Bev the wrong way. This Los Angeles attorney
LA.
coming in here.
Yes. She didn't like Alessi either. Same thing. She did not like Alessi, the big New York attorney.
Really?
Oh my God.
Because Alessi's so corporate classy that I didn't think that he rubbed her the wrong way. I have to go back and see.
Go
really?
back. Oh. She can't stand that he's long-winded. She can't stand that he kind of is so thorough and overly analytical. She just cuts him off over and over again. Like, yeah, get to the point, Mr. Alessi, right? I mean, she hated them both, without a doubt.
Yeah.
You're right. In the end, 80% of the time, she made the right call, and I guess you have to give her that. But the battles that this team, and that's the thing is, like, we didn't see probably the majority of the battles because they were behind closed doors. And that's one of the things I look forward to, hopefully with the Reid files, that we get more information about.
Oh, that's a good point, though. In Karen's interview, she did bring up the fact that 10 minutes before the opening, they said you can't reference ARC or something to that effect. And Alan had to completely change his thing.
Because she hadn't ruled that they were going to be allowed to testify.
Yeah. Yeah. And part of it, this is the life you choose, right? You have to be able to adapt quickly, and trials are always an adaptation. You think one thing going in, and by the end, you learn so much more by pressing evidence and by testimony.
There were two things that happened that ARCA did that were, to me, absolutely definitive. One was the taillight pieces on John's clothing. Those are an impossibility. They could not have gotten there. And where we saw that was in the dummy test that you're talking about, where without a doubt, the dummy was hit straight back, straight behind. The taillight pieces go in that direction, whatever direction the car is moving, so that there would be absolutely no way for a body to literally launch off to the side the way that it was, right? And there could be no taillight pieces on him, because in order to have that kind of force, the person would have to be hit straight on, backed into straight on, and we know that didn't happen. That, so it's like, without a doubt. And then you saw how much damage there was to the car and how much damage there would have been to the body. I mean, there's just no doubt that isn't what happened. And then they spent $700,000 on experts that could not come up with a plausible explanation for what did happen.
Yeah, well, obviously, that's because it didn't happen that way. There was no accident. There was no way physically happen. The problem is, think about being a juror. Like, we're still learning information today. Like, today, with the discussion with you over 2 hours, I'm learning things. How the hell can we expect the jurors in trial number 1 to have any fucking clue as to really what happened, especially what was presented to them in the way it was? Even trial number 2.
Totally. No idea. Yeah. Trial number 2, I think that they knew. That was the whole thing with the jury, I think, in the second trial was the police did not do an investigation, and therefore we don't know what happened, and that is the verdict. The verdict is, because these guys didn't do their job, there was no car accident, so we don't know what happened, we don't know who's responsible, and Karen Reed didn't do this because of that. You're absolutely right. If they had done that in the first trial, it's likely that the same result, would have happened. However, the fact that there was a 9-3 verdict is pretty unbelievable. And it just shows you that with Lally's strategy of just like droning on, putting everybody up there at the same tone, like not changing at all, depending on who he's talking to, it just was working, apparently.
Yeah, how dare you speak bad of Lally? Think about how great it would be if we would cheer Lally on, if we had the opportunity again. Just reverse cheering and just being so appreciative of Lally, cheering him on as he goes through court. He has no idea why. Like, that's what makes things funny to me.
Oh, God, I can't stand Adam Lally. He bothers me so much because at least Hank Brennan is sort of like very out there, very obviously what he is, right? Just so many things. It's hard to know, hard to pick one. But Adam Lally is a snake. He's like a snake. He's a scumbag.
No, he has a snake in his pants.
He pretends to be one thing and then is something different. That drives me crazy. Judy Moore, 1678, sends $5, says my 2 favorites. Thank you so much, Judy. We so appreciate you. Queen of the Pool, California. Is that California? No. Why does it say CA, $5? Canada. Thank you. Framing a woman you once cared for would give consciousness of guilt as much as M and K texted BH after their meeting at 34. He was locked in. So, okay. Framing a woman you once cared for would give consciousness of guilt as much as M and Karen texted Brian Higgins after their meeting at 34.
Wait, who's M and as much as M and K? Well, Karen would be K probably. M.
Framing a woman you once cared for would give consciousness of guilt
All right, so stop
as
there.
much as...
I mean, but what is that referring?
Higgins, right?
Gotcha. The defendant, like, fuck off, Brian. Like, who taught you how to do that? It's so lame, dude. You were just sexting with the girl 2 days ago. Now you're calling her a defendant. It's so obvious. All right. So as much as M and K texted Brian Higgins after their meeting, he was like...
And Karen texted Brian Higgins after their meeting at 34.
I don't think it's Karen that texted Brian Higgins after their meeting at 34, because they had that meeting at 34 Fairway at 7 a.m. Obviously, Karen's not involved in that. Queen of Pool, just tell us what you mean in another...
Yeah, right. Framing a woman you once cared for absolutely would give consciousness of guilt as much as M.
That part I get. Think
Yes,
about that,
totally.
though. Yeah, if you're trying to frame someone else, especially a girl that you were in love with. Because I have a person in my life that was like this.
Totally.
It was definitely before I was married. And I'm thinking, if I would go to the point where I would try to frame her for murder, it would only be to save myself, I guess, if I can even do that. And sometimes that love is so powerful, you'll go to jail for that person. It's the opposite.
Yeah, no. Well, but it's the opposite, right? The fact that he was so... Think about what kind of a state Brian Higgins had to be in and how scared he had to be in order to so immediately see an opportunity in putting this on Karen Reed and take it so quickly, so immediately. It was like, yep, that's what we're going to do. We're going to put this on her.
He got lucky. He got lucky temporarily.
he got lucky, but it's like, what kind of a piece of garbage human being do you have to be to use somebody else, to throw somebody else who has nothing to do with this into the middle of a murder?
Yeah, well, you're doing anything to save yourself. This is the supreme crime, right? It's not like a robbery or something else. This is it. Like, you have to do whatever it takes.
Right. And this is the same woman that, 10 minutes earlier, you're sending the unwell text to. So that's the part that it's just baffling. It's just baffling to me. It is. Right? You know what I mean? Like,
I know
how
exactly
do
what
you...
you mean. Yeah, it's a weird situation. What are the chances anyone's ever in this situation where you're completely in love with someone, they diss you, you end up killing the guy that she's dating, and then 7 hours later you're trying to figure out a way to get out of the murder.
And you put it on them.
Yeah.
Because it was him. I mean, it's very clear that he was the one that is like, yeah, let's call Lank. You tell him what you just told us.
Oh, yeah, right. Meaning he's the one who's pushing this theory. Yeah, if you hear any type of glimpse of Karen admitting she hit John, oh, that makes sort of sense. The only thing they fucked up on is they should have broke John's bones before they put him out there. Think about that. Had they done that with a sledgehammer, something.
Oh, my God.
This case, I know, but this case would have been different. Had they really thought they were setting up Karen Reed, they would have done something to John's lower part of the body.
Didn't. Correct.
Right.
Yes.
They never in a million years thought that they would be able to put this on Karen when they were laying him out there at about 3:15 or 3:20.
Right. Yeah, there was no intent at that point, right? Absolutely no intent at that point. Jen's dog Jonah sends $4.99. Thank you so much, Jen's dog Jonah. Holly Johnson, VD 6LV. Oh, remember for 1 month. Yay. So happy to have you, Holly Johnson. Email for addiction link. Yes, absolutely. The addiction link email is, let me think about this for 1 second. Yeah, off the top of my head, I have like 10 different email addresses. So off the top of my head, I believe it's SB, I don't belong here, at Yahoo, because I'm out of Gmail addresses. So SB, I don't belong here, at Yahoo. I'll put it up on the screen in a minute in case you missed hearing me share that. It's also, I think, should be on the main screen on my YouTube page if you go there too. But I'll put it up in a minute. Thank you for asking.
Miss Judy's email is meloveyouLongtime@yahoo.com.
It's not really.
Her, I don't know if she said it was, but her channel was AA Legal Focus, and I thought it had to do with substance abuse, right? AA Legal Focus, but AA stand for Asian American. Yeah, like she was so into the Asians at some point, like she wouldn't even watch any media that had white people in it, which I love.
Really?
I love hearing. Yeah, how cool is that? Like,
that's
not
so
that she hated
crazy.
white people, but yeah, but like she was so into and the point of these YouTube channels, like she wanted to focus just on Asian legal stuff. And I go, eventually that doesn't work. You just got to go on the mainstream stuff, which is great.
Right.
I love her. I love
From where?
Her and I
though?
From where?
Yeah, where? Asia, where? Where in Asia?
Oh, she's from Taiwan. Apparently, there's a difference between Taiwan and China. I didn't realize this. She teaches me a lot about it.
Oh my
God.
God.
I didn't know.
Very
How are you
big
so
difference.
smart, Sam?
Well, I have a client. I have clients from Taiwan. That's how I know.
Okay, yeah, I didn't realize they're like the snooty, they're like the uppity Chinese. But we do a show together on Tuesdays. We call it See You Next Tuesday at 5 o'clock on Miss Judy's channel. AA Legal Focus, which has nothing to do with addiction.
Legal Focus, nothing to do with anything. Yes, but the addiction, for people that don't know about the addiction thing, I had made a class, parenting addiction, for people that are trying to help their loved ones. Not just for parents, it's mostly geared for parents, but for people who are helping their loved ones try to move them towards recovery. If you just want to know more about addiction, though, it's so thorough. There's so much in there. So send me, just write addiction in the subject line, and I will send you the class and the login information for the course. Andrea Peterson 85. Did I already ask this? No. Sends $4.99, says, Samantha, sorry if you've been asked a lot, but why do you pronounce your last name Benigno when it's spelled Benigno? Is that the question?
I pronounce it Benigno. How do you pronounce it?
Yeah, so, okay, no, I guess it's the other way around. So actually, in Italian, it would be Benigno. That's how you do say it. But at some point in my father's family, they adopted Benigno. And so that's that's just how it's said here in this country, and that's
Sam,
how
I
we say it.
swear to fucking God, all of us Italians are the same. So my last name is Imbesi, but somehow someone was pronouncing it Imbezi, like as if there was a Z on it. So when I was growing up, that's what they would say, but then you realize that that's not technically even possible. So yeah, so what is it with these Italians and their names? Like from the same exact life. It's so weird.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely wasn't my doing. It was just, what I came to have to go with, right? So the answer is I don't know. You have to ask the Italians. I think it's because in Italy the N would be silent, so it would be Benigno, right?
Yeah, I just say my mom really didn't pronounce things properly, and I don't even know like why we switched the name. So is it spelled Benigno?
Yes, Benigno, but the N is silent after the G.
If you say so. Either way, your dad using Benigno makes it so much better. Like, because he refers himself as Benigno too. Now that I'm thinking about it, because I saw the little clip that you had, I was so happy. And I said, like, I love when he comes in with the headpiece. It's so comforting. I could see why he's so successful and popular.
Yes, that's how he is. By the way, like he's not. My father is exactly the same way, whether you meet him on the street and you have no idea who he is, or if you work with him, he's always like that.
That's the curse of radio. No one knows who you are, especially he's probably he is so popular at a certain point before video. Nobody knows who the fuck you are until they hear your voice.
Exactly. Correct.
Yeah.
So it would take, you go to a sports, like if I go to a Jet game with my father, it used to take about 3/4 of the way through the game before people, because he talks to himself, like he narrates the football games out loud, and he always has. So, but it took about 3/4 of the way, and then all of a sudden, it's like you could see it like a game of telephone. People realize it, and then it's like I watch. They all start turning around, and then as we go to walk out, I see it's like a herd, like this herd of people coming towards us, and I just grabbed them. I'm like running up the stairs because I know we're never going to leave if they catch us. Yeah, it's crazy. In a place like that, he's like, the president.
Oh, yeah, of course. Obviously, yeah.
Yes.
Did you marry?
And he'll stay.
The first guy you married, was he your dad? That psychological thing where you marry?
No.
Did your first husband didn't even know what a baseball was or football?
Barely.
I wonder if you do that intentionally. Did you ever hear the statement that the biggest desire of all humans is that of being needed?
No.
Being needed, meaning like to being needed by someone. So it's not necessarily sex, but the being needed, whether it's to protect something, that desire to be needed.
I know.
And I always pointed to Brian Higgins and that plow. And what does that plow really mean? Because we heard him say that he would offer to plow people's driveways. And that would satisfy humans' biggest desire, that of being needed. I mean, you always need someone to plow your driveway. It sucks when you got snow and you don't want to do it. Yeah, like, so it is odd that he's running around with a little plow on the front of his car. But it does satisfy that supposed biggest desire psychologically by human apes, that of being needed.
Yeah. There are several like core needs that we have. So it's not, you could break down needed into sort of subcategories also. And those are weighted differently for each of us. So there's, like I said, subcategories within there that are much more specific. Like, generally men have different, specifics, generally, very, very generally. But you're right. I mean, he's a single man, particularly a trait of masculinity is often to be needed in a very actionable way, like somebody who could come and plow your driveway. That's like the perfect sort of opportunity for him to evidence helpfulness to somebody, doing something for them that they couldn't do for themselves, that kind of a thing. But remember, with these law enforcement guys, that's like a part of the core of their beinghood, is like, that's what we do. We're public servants. We take care of other people. We protect and serve. They take that so seriously, especially, I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with Boston. I think you have some familiarity. It's like a
not really.
third cousin maybe to New York. It's not.
Right.
It's much smaller much smaller than New York. My friends that come from Boston to New York cannot get over, because in New York, in sports, if you're a big sports fan, Boston and New York are compared a lot. So people from Boston tend to think of New York as comparable, but they don't understand that the scope is just massive in comparison until they're here, and realize like we're just this enormous monster city. But it's comparable. It does have a Long Island vibe. I would say out of all the boroughs, the most similar to Boston is Long Island. Absolutely, without a doubt, Long Island.
Completely segregated?
It's very segregated, 100%. It's very traditional in many respects. And, you see this like kind of Brian Albert thing in law enforcement. And if you go back, like we talked about, actually, somebody suggested this last time we met, watching the Trial 4 documentary on Netflix. Turned out I had already watched it. I went back to it to check it out. And the first thing I saw was Rosemary Scapiccio, because she was the lawyer for Sean Ellis, I think is his name. I think that's his name.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's very interesting because it highlights police in the 80s, in the 90s, and this is the Boston police. These are the guys that would have been cops as Brian Albert is coming up into the police force. So this is the culture that he would have really been walking right into. And these are the guys that were just lawless. I mean, they were stealing cocaine out of, bad guys' houses and literally selling it or stealing the cash, putting the drugs in the, just the worst of the worst.
The good old days.
The good old days. Very Boston-esque. So if you haven't seen Trial Number 4, it's worth checking out, because it does give you that vibe. Yeah. Go Fake Yourself, Megan. Hi, Go Fake Yourself, Megan. Sends $10. Oh my God. So wait. Well, I'll get distracted. Never mind. The Bryans saw them pull up from the garage. Hickey called Jay's name, like at the waterfall. John O'Keefe died in the garage, then re-entered through the basement, so no one saw them come in the front again. Okay. Brian saw them pull up from the garage.
Got that.
Hickey called John's name, like at the waterfall. John died in the garage. Right, because we saw, right, with the paint. They re-entered through the basement, so no one saw them come in the front again. How would you re-enter through the basement? You're saying they walked out around the house down into the basement.
That's interesting. It's not impossible.
So you're saying they see them pull up and they walk outside to the front of the house.
That, very likely. Or in reality, you would think Karen would have seen this, because it's not that she's paying attention, but I think it's more plausible that Brian Higgins is somewhere to the right as we're really placing him of the house.
We also have, right, Julie and the brother, right? They're pulled up right behind Karen when they first get there.
And unfortunately for the foreskin girls, they got to realize that the girl in the back of Ricky's truck, she doesn't see John O'Keefe in the car. He had already left. That's huge critical evidence, because then we know John's not in the SUV. Right? So as they're pulling away, which is probably about 2:26, 2:27, they're pulling away and driving by. He's no longer John O'Keefe in the SUV. There's an eyewitness to that who's independent. So he's somewhere, just not in the SUV. It could be this way. It's not unlikely. And in the end, Sam, it's not as if we need to know the exact details. It's a matter of who, right? Who did this, right?
Absolutely.
The intricate things, Brian Higgins, if you ever want to tell us the truth, that'll be fine too. I think it's better you come clean now as opposed to going on trial for murder. Perhaps you did have a defense, a self-defense, but bring it out now, Brian.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is crazy. I hope that someday that we really do get all the answers. I think the only reason why I like trying to figure out visually where all the players are is not because it's so important, but just because it sort of gives the story legs, right? Like it sort of has to make sense in the same way that Aiden is saying to Karen in these texts, I need proof. I think we're all saying we want proof. And if the pieces just don't fit, then they can't fit. We know that that's not what happened. And that's the problem with the anti folks. It's just the pieces don't fit. How they are, what they're overlooking to make them fit are so significant. I mean, and some of the things that come out of these people's mouths are just so absurd. It's like, okay, you guys have just discredited yourselves in every way, shape, or form.
Well, that's kind of the dilemma that I'm in, because there's no way Karen hit John with her SUV, and I'm with everyone on that side. But then once I start to veer off that Colin wasn't involved, then everyone gets mad, but that's okay. We have to keep moving on. It is tough to speak to someone who thinks that somehow Karen hit him with the SUV, no broken bones, nobody sees it, no matter what they're saying. That didn't happen. Someone would have saw this. Julie would have saw it when she's bobbling out of the house. Everyone would have saw it. John would have had. So if you're there, I can't bring you to where we need to go, which is to the truth. That's like so far away. I'm not making fun of them. It's just I can't go there.
Well, I am not making fun of them for that. Right? I mean, if you believe that, I would love to understand it. People always point to the telematics. The problem with the telematics is that the data is not credible. The original data, to me, it's not credible. I have no idea where all of the data that isn't there, where that is, right? Like it starts at a 0 point. Where's all the data from before this whole thing with Karen, right?
So are you speaking about the dopey car data?
Yes.
Right, so like the turnkey and something.
The key cycles, right? That's the stuff that they all like to point to.
What kind of stupid system you guys have? Why not just use it as fucking time as opposed to key cycles, you big dopes? You know, it's like
here's the
so
thing,
dumb.
though. It does. So typically, it does. That system in particular, right? That Lexus system, it does have timestamps usually. Okay. And they're not there in the evidence. So this is the problem with this data, right? Like it seems like it's cherry picked. It seems like they arbitrarily picked a cutoff place to start tracking data, because otherwise Karen's had the car for however long before. We don't have that information. We only have the key cycles starting at whatever, right? There's just no evidence that what they're saying, these key cycles evidence, is what it's evidencing, and there should have been a lot more information. Like this car has all these sensors on it. Where's all the sensor information, right? Why is this car, if Karen backed into somebody, this is auto braking. Why isn't the car auto braking? Why aren't some of these cameras picking up on it? There's so many questions about the telematics that the defense just didn't, to be fair, at all address, and the prosecutors weren't going to. So I don't think we have enough information about the telematics to truly make any kind of legitimate claim. However, what we can say is that based on what they're suggesting, that Karen, hit the throttle at 90% and backed into him for between 60 and 120 feet at 20 something miles per hour, that didn't happen without a doubt.
Impossible.
So it's impossible.
Impossible. Give me a break. It's not impossible, but
absolutely.
So improbable.
It's impossible.
And
it is, though.
Yeah, I don't even care what that says, because unless it has timestamps that we can actually say that this occurred at this particular time. But then you're back to the same argument of, all right, but you did that, nobody saw it, no bodily injury to John. So then, and then John's body has to be laying somewhere, and you're claiming it's at the flagpole, right? So give me a break. It's just a waste of time, and that's what and you'll lose a case being distracted by that shit. We need to focus on what we really can prove and what we can really show.
Exactly. Jackie Benigno, hi sissy, sends $4.99. Hi sis. Loop and crew, love the collab. Loop, how annoyed were you when you watched the Rotten Mango interviewer use the term Brian haha Higgins?
So fucking annoyed. First of all, I don't even know how Higgy Bear came to fruition. I don't even know what it means, but it's just like he looks like a bear and like Higgy Bear. I don't know, but Brian haha Higgins, where would you get the haha from? Look, I don't want to say that the Asians are a creative group. Usually they stick to line hardworking people, but this is where we come. I can come up with the stupid nicknames. Miss Judy does all the facts and things like that. Yeah, how was Jackie as a sister?
She's the best. Oh, she's the greatest sister. I'm the
when you were growing up, though, did you have fights? Like my sister and I would fight over, because she was less than a year younger than me. Like we fight over lacrosse shorts and things like that. What was your biggest fight you ever had with Jackie for real?
No. We were never in school at the same time. So I was a senior. She was in 8th grade. We were never in school at the same time.
Oh, you're an older sister?
I'm an old. Oh yeah.
That's interesting because your personality it would seem as if you were the younger one, more subservient to her.
That's cute. I think she'd probably have a different story.
Okay.
But
you had to have one big fight as a kid. Nothing? You're Italians.
I'm sure if you asked her, she'll give you a different story. I don't remember fighting, but she probably remembers fighting. You have to ask her.
Have you ever dated the same guy?
No. Not even close. Not even close. My sister and I have never even been in the same on the same field when it comes to who we're attracted to.
Oh, she only dates black guys?
That's cute. No, but she's more diverse maybe than I am in her range.
What's her taste though?
That's what I mean. She's dated all kinds of guys, and I'm very specific. Eddie and the Cruisers, you know that reference?
No.
You don't?
What does that mean?
How about Jake Ryan? Do you know who that is? The guy from 16 Candles?
Sort of. I know it's a popular movie from our time. What year did you graduate high school?
96.
Oh, I'm 95, so we're about the same age. Yeah, I know. I just wasn't into that movie as much. I know it's a great movie, yeah. So, but what are you trying to say?
I'm just referencing the guy in that. I'm so stereotypical in the guys that I'm attracted to. They're like you said, Tom Brady.
Oh, well, obviously, anyway, I'm attracted to Tom Brady.
Exactly. So full stop. That's pretty much it. You're either in the group of guys I think are attractive, but it's very one-dimensional. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty white, muscular, tall, white guy. I get it.
Yeah.
So Jackie's the opposite.
Jackie's just more diverse in her range. And not that I don't find black men attractive or brown men attractive. I just haven't dated them for whatever reason.
So Jackie does like darker meat. That's okay.
Jackie,
I'm 1/17th African.
I'm telling you, she's very open to any. She's more diverse in her.
Well, who is she hugging in that picture?
That's Vinny from.
Vinny Politan.
But yeah,
Sam. You know what's wild? I used to work at this building, 666, I think it's 2nd Avenue, and that's where they used to film Court TV. And I was working for a law firm a long, long time ago. And I would see Vinny Politan and the rest of the crew go into the diner. And it was always really weird because back then there was no internet. So the TV was an important thing. I didn't grow up like you with a famous dad. So it was funny. And then I'll never forget this. During one of the Karen Reed trials, you see Vinny on one of the videos, and he's banished to the outside audience, not even where special media, and he's running to try and get Turtle Boy's attention. And I think this is so wild how everything has flipped from, I can't remember the last time I watched Channel 2, Channel 4 just straight away on cable, because I don't even have YouTube TV, but it's YouTube that we're watching. And to see someone who was on TV, still is great. Vinny's a great guy.
Yeah, he's great.
But the fact that he was trying so hard to get Turtle Boy's attention from the general audience, it's crazy how everything has flipped.
Totally. Absolutely. It's so weird. And you said you have a 9-year-old, so I have a 12, 13-year-old, and she's never seen anything but YouTube. YouTube is all there is. There's no TV. Doesn't go outside of YouTube to watch anything.
And my kids don't go outside. It's just YouTube. It's the way it is.
Not in New York City. She doesn't, New York City kids do a lot of activities. My daughter's going to be a black belt and karate and all this other stuff. But yeah, they don't wander, obviously.
I know. It is insane to think that our parents would just let us wander without phones, without knowing where they are. I mean, I have 3 different trackers on my kids. Right?
That's
I have
so
kid.
True.
My son's 16, and it's weird because they're more on the nerdy side. He's a minority at his school. Actually, it's on 14th on the west side, all the way on the west side. And there's only 20% white kids and 80% Asian. So he's literally a minority there. And it's what it is. It's the way New York City is in certain schools. But I always know where he is.
Penelope's a minority too. Yes.
But Sam, when I went there, I tried to explain to my kids that to us, high school was like the Hunger Games, where you never knew if you were going to survive the next day. Like, you saw the packages in the middle of Hunger Games when they just shoot you right up. That's every day from my high school. Like, you never know if you're going to be running from the fucking thugs or whatever to survive. These kids are different. And at this school, it's all nerds. I felt so tough for the first time in my life walking through. It's like all these nerds, Sam, but it's high school because, like, it's a huge high school. But
yeah.
When I was in high school, I wasn't like the tough guy or whatever. But it's so funny walking amongst them and being in a different dynamic. They don't get what we had to go through. Now, I know it wasn't that hard. It wasn't as if we were in an inner city type high school, but it was still Hunger Games on some level. And I don't think they have it as much.
No, not here in New York City, they don't. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Not our kids, where our children are in New York City, probably. There are certainly, I'm sure, places like that in New York City, just not in Manhattan, generally. Lion Mom 3520 sends $4.99, says, how about Bev allowing the state to withhold evidence and submitting clearly edited videos and screenshots of messages? Oh yeah, totally. Is that statements? I don't know what that last question is. Statements heard? 100%. This was sort of to my point. There's a lot of where I think her bias was on full display was more in what she allowed and wouldn't allow. Wasn't as much in the rulings, although there too, but it was more what she allowed, what she didn't allow, and the fact that how she treated Lally was really interesting. Like, she would object for him. Like, she would sort of, there were times, actually, there was a few times where I did catch her motioning to Lally to object. That was interesting. There was also motioning with Hank, which I couldn't believe. I still can't believe. But there was definitely moments where she was putting information into Lally's mouth, right? To try to, what's your opinion? And then she would ask a question instead of wait for him to answer about what an objection was. Yeah. I agree.
But she wasn't as naive based upon the transcripts as people thought, which I liked. Meaning, like, if Lally would go up there and object and ask to approach, like, what the fuck do you want? Like something to ask. But it wasn't.
She hated the snow. She was she was.
I like that stuff.
She was, yes. In the end, look, the defense fought, and they fought her, and they would win, and that was awesome.
Right, and that's where I agree with that. It's like you're not used to having such an obstruction, but you have to deal with that. Depending on what court you're in, you have to deal with it, and they did, luckily.
And they did, and thank God they won. It was really funny. The day after, when he spoke on Howie Carr, you could see that he was like a huge relief. Like, he was just letting his feelings out, right? And good for him for doing it. Dog grooming, Danny sends $5. Loophole, you failed to mention how beautiful Samantha is. In seriousness, absolutely love Nooners, and thank you both for the insights.
Yeah, I love Nooners
dear,
too,
for the
but
compliments.
I'm realistic. I don't look anything like Tom Brady or whoever else that she that only Sam is. It's like, I only have one type, the one that looks exactly like Tom Brady. Who else did my wife?
Stop.
Thank
you. Thanks so much for your
thank
support.
you, dog groomer. But I'm realistic.
And married. She forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Bernadette,
I always forget about
Bohan. I know, it's so inconvenient. Sends $10, says the defense spent most of their time in court battling Bevzilla instead of having the luxury of exposing truth and testimony. Loop, the game show is hilarious. Sidebars, I like the game show too.
Thank you.
Hi from San Francisco. Thanks so much, Bernadette. I'm glad you mentioned the sidebars. Those are so funny. I don't know how you're doing that, because the AI thing, you must have to get used to it, because it takes a lot to get those videos spot on.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass to do, but it is cool for someone that's creative but doesn't necessarily have that particular talent with regard to doing the computer work before AI. It was tough. And now I like to utilize the actual people as opposed to just characters of the people. But then you run into certain situations where, like, for example, like Peter, he's probably your type, right? Peter, the lawyer now? Does he fit in the?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Peter's everybody's type.
I was gonna say there's another girl, there's another guy that my wife will rub up against the TV. That's him. But I feel odd sometimes Like if I want to put him in like a muscular figure, but like no shirt, like I don't want to display people in a negative light necessarily. I like if it's a positive light, I don't think they'll care as much. Like, I wouldn't want to make Peter like normal and fat and a 9.5 out of 10. Like I would feel bad.
No, he's
doing
funny
that.
though. I don't think he cares that much. I've heard him talk about it before. I don't think it bothers him that much.
Yeah,
He
no,
kind
it
of
is odd
ignores it.
sometimes because like you've been around like cocky guys, but we don't have necessarily the looks to back it. He isn't that cocky, so he could back it with his looks. He seems like a nice guy from what he is.
He's nice,
From
yeah.
what I see on the thing, on his show.
Agreed. No, but when
yeah,
it
thank you.
comes to those videos, so you're saying that there's two ways to do it. You can try to match, like you did with Judge Bev in the sidebars video. You can try to match like somebody that looks like a likeness of her versus actually trying to use an image
Yes.
of her.
So at the
Yes.
beginning, when it first came out publicly, like more mainstream, we would actually have to put in descriptions of the people, which
Right.
written descriptions, which is no way compared to utilizing the actual pictures, which now is what they're
Right.
doing. Yeah. So I do
Right.
have
So
people
now
that
you just take a photo and you send the photo in, and then it gives you the closest likeness
Right.
as it can.
Yeah, I mean, it can literally animate. That's a scary part, especially for our kids now, because let's face it, in reality, they could take us and make us naked if they wanted to. Like literally, and so you have to be very careful in life as to what you're viewing. And growing up, we didn't have that aspect. Maybe you can manipulate audio and Photoshop, but now it's video, and that makes a whole nother world.
Yeah, it does.
That our kids aren't getting bullied necessarily like we would or have to survive, like, but they have to deal with the online stuff, which is sometimes even worse because there's no safe
much
sanctuary for them.
Oh my God. I shouldn't say this probably, but
Say
a
it.
lot of clients that I have had over the years have had to deal with it, right? Like men that meet somebody on a dating site or even on like Facebook, and young guys, I'm talking about kids, 19, 20, 17, and the girl eventually, they go back and forth. She eventually gets them to send a nude pic, and then now she wants money. Now she's threatening to tell everybody on their Facebook, Instagram wall, Snapchat, that whatever, tell their girlfriend, tell their parents. And there's been suicides because of it. Not in my life, thank goodness, but I've seen it, right? This is a kind of form of torture that many of these young people, they just don't have the bandwidth, the wherewithal to be able to navigate. And it's terrifying, very isolating. It's embarrassing.
It's so ironic you say that because my wife and I had to speak with our 16-year-old about this. And we said, I'm very open with regard to sexuality and to, I could say we're penis and vagina. My parents couldn't, but not that they would restrict us. We were able to curse
Just
and whatever,
wouldn't.
but they wouldn't. But we told them, I don't give a shit if someone has a naked picture of you, whether it's manipulated or not. You can always come to us, and I don't care. Like, meaning, like, don't be afraid to come to us and say someone's trying to do this to you with regard to money or whatever it may be. And you have to have that conversation with your kids because, yes, there has been suicides because of this. And I don't want that to be. I'm not afraid of the human body, and I don't think that it's a big deal for your kid to come to you and tell you this. So if you make it not a big deal, then they're not worried about it. Yeah, like one kid couldn't pay like $400 or something, for this, and he offed himself because of that. That's the crazy part. So you have to be open with your kids about this.
Yeah, you really, really do. Okay, we've got to get through these.
I know. We were supposed to make the nooner 2 hours. Somehow
I know.
Oh, yeah, you got to go at 3.
I do, yeah. So we have to get through these. Okay. Maddie R. Beach Caregiver sends $50. Whoa, thank you so much. Sam and
Thank you.
Vince
Wow,
are a great
appreciate
team because y'all bring different views and facts, etc. We will never stop until the real killer is brought to justice.
Brian Higgins.
Yes, we won't. You are 100% correct. We will never stop until the real killer is brought to justice. Thank you so much for your support. Songbits Laura, holy crap, member for 6 months. How did Vince meet Judy?
I saw Judy on a show, and I emailed her about her channel, something like that. So I emailed her randomly, and she responded eventually. She didn't like me at first because I didn't believe that Wendy Jill was guilty. So she would take it very serious and very personal, like Emily does with. So I know Emily gets mad at me for like days on end. She's not even bullying me. She's just mad because I have a different opinion. Oh, God.
There she is. Hello, Miss Emily C. She sends $1.99. Says, Vince, who do you love more, Tuesday or Sam's dad? Oh,
Tuesday.
I think Tuesday.
I mean, your dad. is great, but I love Tuesday.
I
Even though
knew
she's
Tuesday
trying to
was gonna
destroy
write
my
that
life
one.
and channel.
Yeah, it's okay. You put an end to that, I think, pretty quickly. I think my hair's like, my head
That's
is
okay.
sweating this off. All right. Bo to Cindy, 499 says, I think you may have proven your dad wrong. Girls and guys can be friends. You two are great together. Oh, that's so sweet. You're right. Love
Yeah,
the
as long
collab.
as I don't, if I look like Tom Brady, then maybe she'd be tempted.
That's cute, but not true. No, come on. Silly. You know, it's a great question. I bet you we could probably have a 2-week long show just debating this from listening to everybody's opinions.
I think your dad's right though, on some level.
I think in the end, he's probably closer to right than wrong. Although, of course, there's always exceptions. So Dennis Burke, 3187, says 999, says, at what point do you think John was attacked by Chloe? Yeah, this is the one that I always come back to. Such a cute cat. They seem to be defending give wounds, so he must have been conscious, right? Ah, yes, good point, because they're blood. What do you think?
Yeah, and this is a great question because there is a possibility that those aren't dog bites. I know people don't want to hear that, and there are other ways to have that cause. Now, I do believe that they are, but I haven't dove into this yet, Sam, because I'm trying to figure out before this. So I don't know one way or another with regard to how it happens, but there are ways to get those marks, even if John was getting dragged in a particular way. In theory, that they could have occurred without a dog bite, but that doesn't mean that it isn't a dog bite. So I know people get mad at this part, but there's nothing I could say about this now because I can't give you a definitive answer one way or the other.
The one thing I can tell you quickly is that right now my working theory is you've got Brian Higgins' Jeep all the way to the third lane on the right side of the garage. Then you have Chloe in the backyard, right? Brian Albert has let her out the backyard. Chloe sees or hears these two guys fighting and jumps the fence. And we do know she can jump the fence. I need to go back. I have to finish Michael Proctor's analysis, and then I have to go back and do Nicole. Nicole's is short. And the reason I want to go back and do Nicole again, even though I never really did it the first time properly, is because she talks about this. Obviously, she's asked about Chloe, and I'm sure we can extrapolate some helpful information about the dog there. But she tells us straight out that the dog has jumped the fence. And that tells me that she could have just been in the backyard.
Could have been.
Yeah, plain and simple. Sometimes it's like, it might just be what it is, right? South Boston Kev, oh, that's so cute. Look,
I love that.
Cute picture of Brian Higgins. Sends £2, says, Vince, well, you wrong, bro. XOXO. I don't know what you wrong about, but
no, he's, because that's Higgy Bear, so he's just claiming that I'm wrong about everything. Well, everything.
This is a cute picture of Higgy Bear right here in the red. I like that picture.
He is very photogenic. He's got great hairline, great hair. Yeah.
Denise gifted 5 I Don't Belong Here memberships. Oh my God, Denise, thank you so much for gifting the memberships. You're amazing. Denise, for those of you that do not know, is the world's greatest moderator. She has been my moderator all along, and she is the best. She really is, though. And we are forever grateful to you, Denise. I think that is everybody. All right, you guys. Wow, 3 hours again, exactly. That's crazy. It's so easy to just sit here and talk. It's like you can do it forever with two people that talk a lot.
It can never last this long. We were only supposed to go to 12 to 2 this nooner.
I know. So we went way over. But it was great to get to be here with you, and it was great to hear from everybody.
Likewise.
And thank you guys all for being with us today. And who knows? Maybe we'll make this a thing, and maybe
I thought it was supposed to be every Monday, so we'll see. Maybe
let's do it.
Hopefully next Monday.
All right.
And we're allowed to bring on guests.
Yeah, I think we should do guests. I think we should do it.
Yeah, well, I know someone who likes the way you look. Corey Hopkins. Did I?
It's cute. Very cute. All right. Everybody,
thanks,
enjoy
Sam.
the rest
I'll
of your
Monday.
week. We'll see you next Monday. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.
Is the defense counselor's duty to protect the rights of the individual as it is the prosecution's duty to uphold and defend the laws of the state. Justice for all. Only we have a problem here.
I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.